On 560 QAM to talk to Neil. Call 567-0560. Toll free in Dade and Broward. Or pound 560 on your cell phone. The opinions of Neil, his guests and callers do not necessarily represent those of the Beasley Broadcast Group, its staff, advertisers, or agencies. Now, here's Neil Rogers on 560 QAM.
Hurricane f***ing blow!
George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. Georgie Jr. is a piece of shit. He's a rich spoiled brat and a cocaine junkie. What's he gonna do with all that campaign money? He don't give a crap about people going hungry, but don't confuse him with the facts. We can't find your rap sheet, it just disappeared. We're looking all over and it still ain't here. Hey, Georgie Jr., where'd your rap sheet go? Are you afraid that we'll find out that you did blow? You were a rich college kid, a drunken party punk, and you got pinched for possession of drugs. But a rich bitch like you can hire a judge to get some Ajax, Splendor, and a big X-Button. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. Jr. is a piece of shit. Georgie Jr. is a piece of shit. One more time. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. Come on. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. Yes, George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. Georgie Jr. is a piece of shit.
Oh, right. 10:02 at 560 WQM. Happy Monday morning to you. This is it, baby. This is it. Right down to the wire. Would you like me to tell you who I think is going to win tomorrow? I better not. But at any rate, we had a tremendous response on our poll over the weekend, and also a phenomenal bunch of people checked out that little video clip we had on our website, neilrogers.com, as in bottoms up, Georgie. And that was 1992, that wedding. That pie-faced shot we had of Georgie W. But at any rate, we know he hasn't taken a drink. See, even if you believe that he hasn't taken a drink in 10 years, the fact is that here's a man who admits now that he was a scumbag, a drunk, a carouser, and of course doesn't want to tell us any more about it because it was too embarrassing during his youthful indiscretion days till he was 40. And now all of a sudden, because he's got Jesus on his side, now he demands. Oh! Boy. Just scary. And speaking of scary, there were a couple of ads in the paper over the weekend, one in the Herald, one in the Sun Sentinel, a couple of these born-again, fetus-hugging, crazy, and then that's what you people, you Bush people, are in bed with? Man, you better check for cooties, I'll tell you that. 1,717 votes will George W. Bush's DUI arrest, or as they're calling it now, DWI. Yeah, that's what they're calling it. Make any difference in the election outcome? Yes, 945, 55%. No, 772, 45%. Now, I realize that that's in conflict with the CNN poll and some of the other polls, but this first statewide poll they took on it yesterday, or at least over the weekend in Pennsylvania, 68% said no, no difference. 32% said yes. Now, that may seem, 2 to 1 against, people saying no, it wouldn't make a difference, but still 32% in the state that's razor-thin margin could make a difference tomorrow. See, the whole thing is going to all depend on who shows up tomorrow. And in spite of all their talk about, we want a big turnout, yeah, they want a big turnout of those conservative Christians. That's what they want, a big turnout. But the whole thing hinges on all you brothers and sisters out there, baby. Get the dark folks out. That's what we need. Oh! Now, up until 3 days ago, Gore was polling 86% in the dark and the African-American community. You know what he's got now? 91%. Bush has gone from 4 to 3%, and the other 3% are trying to figure out who else is on the ballot. They're sure as I'm not voting for Nader. Any blacks for Nader?
No.
No. No way. You'll notice that most of the people for Nader, 2 categories. Very naive college kids who know nothing about anything and think, that if he gets elected, they're going to be smoking pot in the streets the next day. And a bunch of old, craggy 60s rejects. People who want to relive the 60s. Those are the Nader people. And if you took out, and thank God over the weekend and all this polling that we're seeing, one thing that we are seeing is that the liberals and the Nader people are coming back to the Democratic Party. Thank God for that. Thank you, God. Right. And if I have to listen today to any more of these Nader assholes calling, in fact, I think that half of the people calling and arguing for Nader, I think they're Bush people. I kind of like Pat Buchanan myself. Yeah, if I'm thinking about Bush, I'm thinking, Buchanan is really more of a good fascist. Let's go all the way. Why go halfway? So I'd think very seriously before I'd punch that Bush out. I'd think about that Buchanan thing. All you Bush people out there, at least Buchanan don't have no DWIs that we know of. Where's that great cartoon? Is it in the around here somewhere? I don't know. I got too much crap. I'm just loaded up with crap. Now, somebody faxes me the latest, and I got to be honest with you. These polls, there's a good article. It's in yesterday's Herald, in the Focus, Hocus, Focus, Pocus section, that says polls have never been so ubiquitous or meaningless. Everybody agrees the art of polling needs an overhaul. And one of the points that they make, because our telephone has become a weapon in our home, and all these crazy solicitors have been bugging the hell out of us. I don't know about you, but when I get a solicitor, oh no, I'm sorry, he's not here. He's gone on vacation for 2 weeks. Click. Which is pretty polite, I guess, to most people who just say, click, or even worse, as in, F you, don't bother me again, click. So they have a tough time. It used to be 75% of the people in these political polls would respond on the phone. Now it's down to 50%. And in a lot of cases, less. So they're having a really tough time getting a representative sample, just like Arbitron had during the month of September. Bluff came in here and showed me the month by month in our last summer book. September, this radio station, according to Arbitron anyway, vanished off the face of the globe. Does anybody believe that?
No.
Do we believe it?
No.
Of course not. Up there in Beltsville, Maryland, I think a few too many belts is their problem up there. They don't know their ass from their elbow. But here's the very latest. And if you really are an insomniac or really just obsessed with this election, which I can't imagine that you would be, unless you're worried about fascism and all those right-wing judges. See, that's the real thing. I had some woman call last week, oh, that's just a scare tactic about the judges, that's a scare tactic, yeah. And also for the Nader people who think that they're building a party and that they're going to get that $12 million if they get their 5%. You see, once George W., if you help him get in there, once he starts appointing those judges, you get one or two or maybe more in, everything that Nader supposedly stands for is down the toilet. We take several big giant steps backward into the Stone Age. But don't confuse the Nader people with the facts. Also, if they do get their 5% and they get their $12 million, what they're basically doing is ensuring Republican presidents for years to come. For years to come. Because if the Green Party, which is an extreme radical left-wing movement with no real constituency in this country, except, like I said, a bunch of stupid naive college kids and a bunch of old farts who want to relive the 60s, and if they do start making a few inroads to the point where they get their 7 or 8%, which they'll never get more than that, then they could ensure, like I said, Republican presidents for years and years to come, which again is like cutting off your nose to spite your face, because naturally the Republican Party stands for everything diametrically opposed to what the Nader people in the Green Party supposedly stand for. Like the environment. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Big business is just salivating, waiting to get a couple of those Bush appointees in there. They can't wait. Here's the latest. Florida, 49 for Gore, 46 for Bush, 4 for Nader. That's as of this moment from MSNBC Zogby. And I have very serious doubts about their poll. Michigan, they got Gore up by 7. State of Washington, Gore up by 4, but Nader's getting 7% there. Pennsylvania, Gore 47, Bush 45, Nader with 7. So again, you see the Nader factor there. He's the chigger in the woodpile. If you take him out of the equation there, and even his 7 points, say give 5 to Gore and 2 to Bush, it would be not even close. Wisconsin, Bush 47, Gore 45, Nader 7 again. And of course, Gore cannot afford really to lose Wisconsin. Illinois, Gore up by 13. National registered voters, registered, not likely voters, national registered voters. Gallup poll shows Gore 46, Bush 44. Newsweek, Gore 44, Bush 41. And the PBS poll, Gore 45, Bush 42. But likely voters, Gore 46, Bush 47 in the MSNBC Zogby poll, and Gallup Bush 47, Gore 45. Likely voters. So the whole thing hinges on getting a whole bunch of people out there tomorrow who everybody expects, well, they're not going to bother this time because the candidates are boring and nobody really gives a crap and nobody in this country votes anyway. That's what it all boils down to. A massive, gigantic, humongous upheaval of people coming out to vote tomorrow. Hey, I got to make sure that I got the right place. I'm going to get up bright and early in the morning. I'm going to vote in the morning. And I hope that it's at that Victory Park place on the corner. I hope that's correct. I didn't get any bum information. Because it looks to me like a little firehouse building there at Sunrise by 118th. It looks like An outhouse is what it really looks like. Yeah, I hear the people in Hallandale are voting at that outhouse again. Nice going, Sonny, you jackass. 10 past 10 at 560 WQ.
No portion of this program may be reproduced without the express written permission of WQAM DC Broadcast Group Incorporated.
I wouldn't believe a word Neil said if his tongue was notarized.
Tonight on Entertainment Tonight, Governor Bush, why did you outlaw the Buns of Steel workout video in Texas?
I want you to have an ass that you can pass on from one generation to the next.
What?
I want you to have your own ass that you can call your own.
That's tonight on Entertainment Tonight.
10:15 at 560 WQMC. The DUI, the DWI, whatever you want to call it, that may or may not have any impact on people, but the fact is that this reporter, what the hell was his name again? Walter Slater, something like that, from the Walter Sabo from the Dallas Morning News, comes right out, and for some reason we only saw that 3 or 4 times, and that was the end of it. They showed it one more time yesterday, talking about the interview he did with W. It was 2 years ago, asking him did he ever have any arrests before or after 1968, and the answer was no. And then what's her name? Katie, what's her name? Couric? What? No, seriously, his press secretary. She steps in there like separates him like in a wrestling match. You know, like in a ring in a boxing match. She steps in between the two. Well, that's it. Time's up. Get out of here. You're starting to tread on very dangerous ground. And this business, the fact that the American public seems satisfied with the fact that he just generalizes, glosses over these 40 years, or how many, I guess 25 years of screwing around with, I didn't have a perfect record as a youth. First of all, 39, 38 a youth, that's number one. And number two, inquiring minds, if they had any brains, probably would like to know what that means, other than just a glittering generality. Because character has been one of his big things they've been screaming about. And if you'll notice on his campaign, on his stump speeches, stumps me why anybody's buying it, because it's exactly the same thing everywhere. All the cliches about, the old-fashioned politics and the Washington politics and all this horse crap. And get rid of the bitterness in Washington. All these, mindless generalities. Because he can't answer his questions about the phantom Social Security with the $1 trillion over here for the young people and $1 trillion for the old people who are supposed to be collecting it now. He can't answer that. And certainly doesn't want to talk too much about the tax cut for the rich. So it's a lot better to talk about getting rid of the bitterness and the old-style politics and the character assassination and yada, yada, yada. What the hell are we, what are these people listening to? I just don't get it. I really don't. Here's our poll question for today, and I guess you guessed it. We'll try one more time. We'll see how much success we have. If you are voting tomorrow, who are you voting for? George W. Bush, Al Gore, Ralph Nader, Harry Browne? Yeah, we'll even put Harry Browne on there for those 10 libertarians we have out there. You know what we say about the libertarians? Yeah, they blow too. They're blowing more smoke than the Nader people. How about we might even put Fudge Brown on there, maybe next time.
Put Buchanan on there?
Did I leave him out?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Patrick Buchanan. God, that was a subliminal slip on my part. Don't forget the great Pat Buchanan, all you real right-wing Republicans out there. You know something? I think we ought to start a campaign down there in Little Havana. Make them understand that Pat Buchanan is their man, not George W. He don't like illegal, he doesn't like immigrants to begin with.
We'll get somebody to draw like
that's right, I forgot Buchanan hates immigrants. Like I said,
neck.
Huh?
We'll get somebody to draw a Cuban flag handkerchief around his neck or something.
Around Buchanan's neck? I'd rather see a rope around his neck. Yesterday, W was down there in what was it? The FIU stadium. And Rosanna Dana was on the stage with him. She was standing about 4 feet away. She was quelling so much, I thought she was going to jump up and just hop on his back and do a little piggyback. She was just foaming at the mouth, and especially when he started screaming about a free Cuba and all this other crap, and all those toothless wonders again, screaming and yelling, do the same old tired crap. I say tomorrow, every living and breathing person in South Florida who really cares should give a Schwarzer a ride to the polling place, huh? Don't you think that's a good idea? I'm not saying that most black people don't have their own cars, but sometimes those little old brown Toyotas. Well, that's the Haitians, I guess. Let's get those Haitians out and those Jamaicans, too, man. Oh! Don't forget about them. Here's a mobile in Pembroke Pines, our first call of the week. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning. This is my first time calling. I'm a little nervous. I drive taxi for a living. The Bush voters are buying the vote, you know.
Their what?
One guy offered me money to vote for Bush.
He offered you how much?
Not much. He said, I'll give you $10 tip if you vote for Bush.
Yeah, not enough.
I said no.
Well, you should have taken it to him. He can't tell you gonna. In fact, you should take tips from all the Bush people and then go and vote for Gore anyway.
No, he gave me. What happened? He said, "What do you think in South Florida? Who's gonna win?" I said, "I don't know who's gonna win, but I'm gonna vote for Gore."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Why?" I said, "First of all, he's a little better looking than
yeah,
Bush.
That's right.
And
got a much bigger penis.
Yeah, he got a little experience." More than Bush. He said, no, but Bush is a good guy and Gore is a liar. I said, they are lying. He said, no.
That's right.
He said, Bush do what he said, but Gore promised and he don't do it. I said, but about Papa Bush? He said, but
read my hips, yeah.
Yeah. He says that's his son.
Okay, well, listen, vote 2 or 3 times for Gore, and since you're driving that taxi, pick up a bunch of desperate people and make sure they vote for Gore, too. Good luck to you, sir. God bless you. How do you like that? They're offering cab drivers to vote for Bush. That's how desperate they are here in South Florida. 567-0560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon Wireless line. I see line 5 is still out, Duff. He gave me a song to dance and double talk about that. You know, I'm looking at that trend for September. I mean, disaster for this entire radio station. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, if I'm in his shoes, I'm on the phone right now with the phone company. I'm like dancing around the edges of the building. I'm doing everything in my power to try to resurrect the audience here. In fact, I'm sitting here looking at that phone and I'm trying to resurrect this audience too. What is with this? This is the day before the election? Oh, that's right. It's Monday. I forgot. And we're not talking about the canes and the fish and the canes. See, that's what this state is all about. Football. Give me the ball. Give me the ball. Give me the... That's what it's all about. And speaking of that, how the hell come we haven't read anything over the weekend about the Murray boys being gone? Speaking of sports. Just a matter of time, baby. Just a matter of time. Here's a mobile in Pompano. Hello.
Yep.
Yes,
gonna
sir.
vote for Goyen Heberman. Bye-bye.
Okay. 567. That was brilliant. 56705. I think you ought to call the C-SPAN people. Maybe we can still get them in here today. Yeah. Oh, we had a couple of days last week that you would have just slapped yourself in the armpit a couple times. Here's Fort Myers. Hello.
Slapped yourself in the armpit? What is that?
Come on, let's get with it, sir. Let's hear your material, not mine. We just heard mine.
All right. First of all, the Schwarzes will steal a car to get to the polls. And on Wednesday morning, Neil, what you're going to have to do is change that song. It's going to be President Bush is a piece of Schmidt.
We already had President Bush, and he was a piece of Schmidt.
Well, we're going to have another one.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we are. And hey,
but sir, you know something?
Yeah.
The fact that you're sitting here on the phone saying it, number one, isn't going to make it happen. And number two, it really dismays me that you yahoos over there on the West Coast, we're not interested in what you have to say. We know it's got that big red thing on the map. They had a thing in the papers over the weekend showing the demographics and the voting preferences in the various parts of this state. We know that you're solid. They could put up a goddamn gorilla there to run and you'd still be, if that was on a Republican ticket, you'd go there and vote for it because it's in your blood. You can't help yourself. In fact, I think you deserve that, Sheriff McDougal. I think he fit in like a rubber glove deep inside your rectum. Speaking of these ads in the paper over the weekend, here was page, 5B? Boy, they sure are sloppy printing. 5B in yesterday's Sun Sentinel, Saturdays. Can a Christian vote for Al Gore? 4-page ad. This is right in line with that last Yahoo we just heard from Fort Myers, that asshole. 7 issues from a biblical perspective. It's a matter of record that without votes of professing Christians, Clinton could never have been elected. Approximately a third of evangelical Christians voted for him. You turd! George Washington himself stated flatly, it is impossible to right govern the world without God in the Bible. Even though, of course, he was a deist, which means he was an atheist. We sincerely believe it is impossible for a true Christian who follows God's word to vote for Gore for president, and I hasten to point out that George Washington was not a Christian. This is a paid political ad paid by Peter Foy, 1515 4th Street East, Omaha, Nebraska. Peter Foy, some goy. 1. Gore advocates abortion, partially born and unborn. The precious value of life is a major theme of the Bible. It goes on. 2, Gore advocates or tolerates homosexuality. God's word is clear. Homosexuality is an abomination, it goes on. Gore will appoint judges who are hostile to Christianity. All right. The president's power to appoint Supreme Court justices and federal court justices is far-reaching. In my view, if elected, Gore will attempt to refashion America into a country devoid of all values and virtues our founders believed were necessary for the survival of our nation. Like driving while drunk and then covering it up. And then lying about your military service, too. 4, a Gore presidency will continue a systematic destruction of the family. Federal government policy and atheistic public school indoctrination has exasperated the present deteriorating condition of the American. Are you hearing that? They're as dumb as he is. And by the way, what do they think Social Security is? Some kind of a federal program? Yeah, that was another good one. Oh, he just has trouble. He just gets confused. He's a moron, okay? They think it's some kind of a federal program? The word they're looking for here is exacerbated, but it says federal government policy and atheistic public school indoctrination has exasperated the present deteriorating condition of the American family. How do you like that? Illiterate morons hang out together. How do you like that, apples, huh? Clinton-style ethics will continue under Gore. Gore could foster the indoctrination of America's children, and Gore could further disarm our nation and demoralize our fighting forces. Yada, 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 yada. And God and Goyim, etc., and so on. Then we got another one. 23A in yesterday's Herald. Have you ever held a newborn baby in your arms? Have you ever seen the size of a baby's feet at 10 weeks after conception? Well, here they are, the actual size. And it's got like a little tiny pair of black feet, as a matter of fact. Ooh. On November 7th, we have a chance to save millions of babies' lives by voting for people of life, especially a president who will respect the life of the unborn. Life is sacred, make no mistake about this. Psalm 139:13 says, you have formed in my inmost being, you knit me in my mother's womb. As a nation under God, yada, yada, yada. This one's paid for by the McAlpine family, whoever they are. Vote for George W. Bush for president. For those of you who are pro-choice and familiar with the New Testament, and it's got yada, yada, a whole bunch of biblical crap. So all the rest of you out there who think that you're hopping in bed with moderate people, you're hopping in bed with a far religious right. I've been telling you that all along, and that's what it's all about. Those are the people who are salivating right now. They're squeezing it. They're squeezing each other. They're so excited about this. 26 after 10 at 560 WQAM.
I'm not a baby. I'm not a baby. I'm not a baby. The way guys look at me is a game. Not jailbait that you're glad. I'm not a baby. I finally turned 18. And I'm scantily clad, yeah. Honey, all you want to do is me. Not a baby, but I'm really hot. Wow, it's because I'm not the tear I used to be. And there, this schoolgirl dress way above my knees. When you think of what you do to me, remember that I'm legal, baby, that's no crime.
1032 at 560 WQM. So George W. is up there saying, what do they think? Social Security is some kind of a federal program?
Yeah. That vote. And while you're turning out the vote, make sure you talk to open-minded Democrats and independents.
Word for word, verbatim. Every campaign stop, word for word. Although he did come up with a new one now. He's got, help is on the way. It's only 24 hours away. Help is on the way. Help from this great prosperity of the last 8 years. Help from the fact that most of you are better off than you were 8 years ago under the Reagan-Bush depression with high inflation and high unemployment and that unfinished Gulf War. Yeah. Help is on the way, all right, for the big oil companies and the pharmaceutical companies and the tobacco companies and all of his other friends who pollute the environment like they did in Houston and all over Texas. See, I don't understand why the Democrats didn't run a whole series of campaign ads just showing the Houston skyline on an average day. They had somebody reporting from Austin yesterday. It was the middle of the afternoon, even though they're an hour behind, so maybe it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And looked like something you'd see at 8 o'clock in the morning, on a foggy day. Like the end of the world in Austin, Texas. Industrial pollution, boys and girls. You ain't seen nothing yet. That's right. That ought to be his line. You ain't seen nothing yet. Here's this is the same stuff we had before. MSNBC is rolling the polls. Florida, 49 for Gore, 46 for Bush, Nader with 6. Illinois, Gore's got it, 13 points up. Michigan, Gore 50, Bush 43, Nader 5. Oh, this is brand new, isn't it? Or is this what I had before? Michigan? No, that's what we had before. I started to say before, they're going to have last-minute polling. They don't do it on Election Day itself because they claim they don't want to influence the outcome of the election. Anybody believe that? Huh? Yeah. But they're conducting last-minute polling right up till midnight tonight. So if your phone rings, we're assuming that's on the West Coast. They're doing the polling up till midnight, but you never know. Maybe your phone will ring 12:30 in the morning. This is the Zagby. Yeah. Click. Can't understand why they're having so much difficulty getting those people to respond. Here's a mobile in Hollywood. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Okay.
You can vote today, you know. In Broward County, they're still doing absentee ballots.
Yeah. Well, I don't need to do that.
If you don't want to worry about it tomorrow, you can go to the South Satellite Courthouse or the main courthouse.
Well, I'm not going to any courthouse. I'm just, because the polling place is right by my house, assuming it's the right one.
Yeah, because I just went and voted today. Because I'm driving people to the polls tomorrow.
Great.
As long as they're Democrats.
Uh-huh.
So, there's not very many people online. You can get it over and done with.
Okay.
All right.
Go back again, do it again tomorrow. Okay. 5670560. What's that poll look like? 38 votes already. If you are voting tomorrow, who you be voting for? Gore 27, Bush 6, Nader 2, Buchanan 2, and Harry Browne 1. Uno. Double. He was in here yesterday in Miami. Double. I wonder if he was telling them about the 15th of May, the AC6. I mean, this man is so dumb. He makes a rock look like a genius. That ought to be his campaign song, I Am a Rock. Here's Fort Lauderdale. Hello.
How you doing, Neil?
Yes, sir.
Hey, 2 questions. First of all, why did Elaine Bloom change the spelling of her last name from U-M to O-O-M?
Excellent question. Because people used to probably call her Blum.
And second question is,
yes,
regarding the DUI that George Bush got 24 years ago.
DWI, yeah.
We have a senator who drove off a bridge and no one seemed to really care about that, killed a girl from Massachusetts.
Well, you see, the fact of the matter is that senator has stood before the electorate. There is no great secret about that. It's been talked about at great length. And that senator stood for re-election in his state. In fact, sometimes he doesn't even have an opponent because he's so popular. And the electorate, I'm not saying that he doesn't have a right to drive while drunk, but the public has a right to know about it. And he certainly ought to not be lying to reporters from the Dallas Morning News or anybody else and trying to cover it up, which he has been. And then there's a stupid letter to the editor in the paper today about, how courageous and refreshing it was to see him deal with this head on. Well, he dealt with it head on because they had him. Gotcha! They had the goods on him, that curmudgeon up there in Maine with that little schmata on his head, that goofball. Yeah, there's a senator in, how come Elaine Bloom changed her name? What is this? What is this? I bought a keychain and CD off your website, and now they want to give $1,001. I don't understand what the hell that is. What is that? I don't get it.
That's one of our chronic faxes with the crayon.
Oh, yeah. Maybe somebody wrote it out for him. Scrawled it out. 5670560, pound 560. Sir, if that's the best you can do, if that's the best campaign speech you can do on the day before about the senator in Massachusetts, and by the way, sir, he happens to be probably, in my opinion, the most effective senator in the entire United States Senate, and my favorite.
And it's not true that no one seems to care about it. We've only heard Chappaquiddick.
They care about it a lot, but let me say it again. When you go before the electorate, then we find out how much those people care about it, and obviously the people of Massachusetts don't care. And I'll say it again. We're going to have whoever wins, Dick Cheney, George W., and Ted Kennedy, and also Lazaro Gonzalez. Those 4 are going to be driving. They're going to be taking turns. They're going to be fighting for the wheel. That's right. The whole Gonzalez family. Delphin, he'll be in there too. 22 before 11 at 560 WQAM. I think Bush is going to win. I hate to say that. A lot of really ignorant people out there. I smell the same Teflon on him that I smelled on Reagan. You can smell it a mile away. Yeah. If they would come out and find out that he murdered somebody 25 years ago, or if the abortion story came out, I still don't think it would make any difference. Even the same people that put those ads in the paper I was just reading, well, but he accepted Christ, da-da-da. You know, it doesn't make any difference. See, that's a catch-all. That's a cover-up for everything, no matter what you did. It's like those crazy born-again nuts who say, oh, if Hitler would have accepted Christ on his deathbed, then he'd go to heaven. Which is why many of us are going to be very happy not to be there.
The Neil Rogers Show. Sports Radio 560. QAM.
Alonzo, you're so big.
Time to go to the closing statements. Vice President Gore. It's one of my top priorities, Jim, to give every single child in the United States handguns that are so widely available that kids are finding ways to get a hold of them. I'm a grandfather now. I want to be able to tell my grandson, we were violent and unpredictable, and I'll do whatever is necessary if I'm president to make sure that it stays that way. And I ask for your support.
Governor Bush? Yes. It's time to have a new commander-in-chief who will lend money to corrupt officials and to make sure our society is as hopeful as it possibly can be. Every single child in America must be put to death. I mean, every child. We can close public schools. I'm a hard-hearted person, and I don't care about children. You feel that is a failure of the Clinton administration? I do.
I do. 18 before 11 at 560 WQM. Randy Rhodes, 3 to 7, as we continue recycling the same old losers again. Stupid talk starting. When did you say tomorrow? Did you say tomorrow? We don't know. Oh, we don't know yet? What? Yeah. Oh, she ought to be gigantic there. Let's hear it as they continue putting on the succession of female talk hosts who all sound the same, feel the same, unlistenable. But in the words of that brilliant programmer, Pete Bolger, she's a broad. She's a broad. Okay, nice going there, Randy. 3 to 7 on Stupid Talk starting tomorrow. Can't wait for that. Boy, Hank, you're in big trouble now. We're starting sometime. Hi, Leah. Hello.
You know, Neil, no one is perfect.
Yeah, including you. Phony voice, same old clowns. Put it back in your pants, pal, because if ever anything was invented by nature that wasn't perfect, that's it. Oh, God. Take a look at that thing. Here's Miami Beach. Hello.
Yeah, how you doing, Neil?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, I was wondering, you guys got something against Bush? My name is Wayne Bush, and I'm a relative of his. And I don't like my uncle.
You're a relative. What, are you a kissing cousin?
Excuse me?
Are you a kissing cousin?
Yeah, no, I'm not a kissing cousin, but you're talking bad about him, like he's a moron from another world.
He is. He's
no, he's not. I mean, look at you.
Idiot.
Oh, you're a joke.
Yeah, a joke? Well, I'm glad that we're entertaining you every day, okay, with your phony name and your phony laugh and your phony whatever else. Your phony stunt penis. 5670560. See, this is the mentality of the Bush people. The guy from Fort Myers, this guy here, the other punk that calls up at a song and dance about Ted Kennedy and is driving Mary Jo Kopechne off the bridge in Chappaquiddick, as if that's got anything to do with what's going on. And Missouri poll, Bush 49, Gore 45, Nader 4. Bad news for the Gore people right there in misery, I'll tell you that. That's a state he can well, he was not planning on winning it anyway, but don't look real good. Gore's got to win Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, all three. Make no mistake about that. And then still has got some work to do. 5670560. Listen to these calls we're getting here again today. This is the intelligentsia, the cream of the crop in South Florida. And so many of the pundits are saying, oh yeah, Florida's going to be the key, and South Florida especially is going to decide the outcome of this election. Just listen to these people. Here's South Miami. Hello.
I want to vote for Ed.
Yeah, uh-huh. Delray Beach, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay, sir.
I've called you before. I'm a Bush supporter. And the reason why I think he might win is,
then you're going to make me the same speech that you made before, is that?
No. I'm not talking about speeches. I'm talking about polls.
Yeah.
Okay? The poll that I've been looking at, which seems to be the most reliable over the last several elections, is what they call the battleground poll, which has the Democrat Celinda Lake and the Republican Robert Goaz. I think his name is Robert Goaz, something like that. And their latest poll as of this morning shows Bush with a 9-point lead. Okay, he's increased it actually over the weekend. So
9-point lead in where?
The whole country. And what they said is, listen to this. I don't know if you heard this. An individual, if he wins the election by more than 2.2 percentage points throughout the country, he cannot, statistically, he can't lose the Electoral College. I don't know how they figured that out, but that's what they said.
That's ridiculous.
That's what they said.
I don't care what they said. It's ridiculous because he's going to win Texas by a gigantic landslide, and Gore isn't going to win California by as much as they thought he was going to win. So it's still a possibility.
They're all saying that, Neil, so I don't know. I don't know how they figure that out, to be perfect. And the only problem I have with MSNBC Zogby is an article I read is that Zogby does most of his polling before 6 o'clock at night.
Right.
So he's not encompassing everybody. When you poll at night, let's say between 6 and 11, you get everybody. Zogby just polls mainly during the day, and he gets mainly retirees or people who aren't working. So his polls generally tilt towards the Democrat. It underpolls.
You mean as opposed to the Gallup poll that always, for some reason, seems to tilt to the Republican for some strange reason?
Well, I'm just going by what I read, Neil. And we'll know tomorrow evening at about 11 o'clock. And one thing about Florida is that 100,000 absentee ballots. There are more than 100,000 absentee ballots for Republicans over Democrats. So that tells me about motivation. You see more of a motivational base with the Republicans.
Oh, sure. There's no question about that because they got the born-again Christians all whipped up into a frenzy. There's no question about that.
No matter who wins, we're still living in the greatest country of the world.
No, we're not. No, we absolutely are not.
Well, we disagree there.
Okay, have a great day, pal. See, there's a guy who believes this is the greatest country in the world with our third-rate education and our life expectancy so much shorter than so many of the civilized countries. This is the fattest country in the world. No question about that. In fact, I'll tell you what a great country it is. There's an article, front page of this morning's Herald, that I found kind of bizarre. It says, foreign tourists flocking to Broward. International visits up 385% since '85. And it goes on about all of these people, mostly from Latin America, Europe, well, whatever. It's got the countries listed in here. But at any rate, when I picked this up, when I came into work this morning, I picked up the front page again. I thought to myself, what is it that these people are doing when they come to Broward? And, of course, immediately one thing came to mind, the sawgrass. And I open up to the second part of the article on page 14, Broward tourism sees huge increase. And here are a bunch of people, a couple of old farts and some middle-aged people, bargain seekers, tourists from Norway and Sweden disembarked from Van to shop at the Sawgrass Mills Mall in Sunrise.
Oi!
The greatest country in the world, baby. More strip shopping centers, more shopping malls.
Do they have a hotel in the mall there?
No, but they should have.
They ought to, yeah.
Yeah.
Big one.
I mean, what are we talking about? I mean, we'll be glad to take their money. Just keep bringing the money and drop it off in a little sack, thank you. But I just don't understand what the hell they're doing there. Here's a lady in Miami. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Al. How are you this morning?
Al?
Al Gore?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Al Neal.
Al Neal. Neil Gore.
Okay, I'm a little
You're
nervous.
a little confused, yeah.
On the
That's
radio.
obvious. Uh-huh.
I'm a volunteer.
I sure hope I'm a little bit more animated than Al Gore.
You sure are.
Okay.
Most definitely. As a matter of fact, I'm a avid listener, except that today I have a little favor to ask to see if we can let people know on your listening station that...
My listening station?
Well, you broadcast the Dade and Broward and I believe the West Coast.
Yeah, even on the West Coast, that's right. Even those rednecks, those nose pickers over there in Fort Myers and Naples, right.
Right, but I'm a volunteer
that are probably doing their sheep right now.
I've been volunteering for the Democratic Party here in Miami.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask whether or not there's people that would like to come to see Al Gore and Stevie Wonder tonight at starting at 10 o'clock on South Beach.
Now, is Stevie Wonder going to see Al Gore?
He's going to be there.
Oh, okay.
He's actually going to be one of the performers, and Deborah Cox is also going to be there. And they can get free tickets if you are a Gore supporter at any of the Democratic Party offices. They can go by and pick them up. We'd like to see as many people there as possible tonight, and if anyone can come out and support Al Gore in his victory tonight, that would really help if you could put this on the air.
Okay, it's on the air.
Oh, it is?
Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Neil.
You bet. Good luck.
Bye.
California poll, look at that. Gore 47, Bush 44, Nader 7. That's getting a little bit too tight. Florida poll, Gore 49, Bush 46, Nader 4. I think the guy that called before, though, I think you're right. I think Bush is going to win. But, of course, don't get overconfident. Don't get too cocky. You might be surprised at just how many people turn out. See, we tend to believe polls that tell us things that we like. If a poll comes out and it's several points in favor of the candidate we don't like, we say, yeah, well, we don't believe that poll. And so we keep searching, and of course now it's easy because there's 8 million different polls. So we tend to focus in on the poll that has a result that we like and say, yeah, they know their crap. Like the Fox poll. The Fox poll over the weekend was the only one that was like dead even, 43 apiece. Now, do I believe anything they say at Fox News?
No.
Of course not. They're a bunch of fascists, which surprises me. Maybe they're trying to lull somebody into believing that Gore might win. I don't know what they're trying to peddle at Fox. Here's Hollywood. Hello. Hollywood. Going once. Going twice. Probably expired. Here's a Margate call. Hello.
Yeah, Neil?
Yes, sir.
I just want to reply to the people that are calling about Ted Kennedy, about the Chappaquiddick incident.
Yeah, I had one call. It's not the people. There was one call.
No, this has been on several stations. I just want to say that's why he never was able to run for president.
What do you mean he was never able to run? He did run in 1980. Don't you remember that, sir? He did run.
Oh, I didn't recall that.
Oh, okay. Oh, boy. Woo! Can I ask you one question? Seriously. What's the use? That's the question. What's the use?
You get paid.
No, I understand that. I'll take the money. But I mean, what? Here's a guy who's old enough to know better. You gotta like have somebody read you a book sometime. You know, it's only 20 years ago. He was never able to run for, he doesn't recall that he challenged Jimmy Carter in 1980, won a couple of primaries, and then proceeded to get his ass kicked because he really couldn't say why he was running for president other than his name was Kennedy, just like George W. He's running for president because his name is Bush. Because the daddy and Dick Cheney and all of his other buddies, all his other asshole buddies there, this is the figurehead. Just like Reagan was their figurehead for 8 years, and now America wants another figurehead. Because that's exactly what he is, a puppet. Here's a mobile in the Keys. Hello.
Hello, good morning, Neil.
Yes, sir.
Afternoon, maybe.
Good evening.
I'm a Gore supporter, and I just have a question kind of off the topic a little bit. I looked at the sample ballot, and they've got all the stuff about reelecting the judges. But where can you get information on how these judges, what their records and how they ruled on different things? Every time we have an election, I never see anything in the papers or any kind of information about, their past performance and why that we should be reelecting them or voting them out.
I don't know. Big section in the papers yesterday, both of them, the Herald and the Sun Sentinel. Here's the focus section. And there was a special election section in the Sun Sentinel also, and the House races. Oh, and by the way, the guy that called me on Friday and said be sure to vote for Elaine Bloom, I went along because I'm trying to pump up Elaine Bloom and beat Clay Shaw, but the fact is I don't live anywhere near Elaine Bloom's in Clay Shaw's district, District 26. I live like most of the people in Broward and much of the people in Dade in District 20, Peter Deutsch, who's running unopposed. So I'll try to vote for Elaine Bloom. Maybe I'll find somewhere to write her name in there, Elaine Bloom, whatever it is these days. Sir, get you a paper. Get you one of yesterday's newspapers. There's the best information for you right there. Just pages and pages and pages, more than you could ever possibly digest or even want to know. Here's Lakeland. Hello.
Yeah, Neil, yesterday the Jebber was on all the radio, all the talk shows, and Sam Donaldson asked him point blank, he said, you and your brother have not answered the question, what happens when people take their money, put it in the stock market, and they lose? Will the taxpayers bail them out? And Jebber wouldn't answer.
Well, they sure bailed out the S&Ls.
That's right, but even funnier was on Fox when Jebber was on. They were asking him about the DUI, and Jebber said, well, the first time I heard about it was, on the television, and they said, well, but then Jebber said, but that pales in comparison to some of the other stories I could tell you about my brother. And Brett Hume said, care to share some of those stories with us? And the Jebber said, well, let's just say he was rambunctious.
Rambunctious, like that abortion.
Do you remember that?
No, seriously. This is very serious business that this man has just made one blanket statement about, I did not have a perfect record as a youth, or whatever the words were. And that's it. And he believes, and the media and the public have allowed him to get away with it. That's a satisfactory answer. And let me also say that for years after this DWI, he was still drinking until he was 40 years old by his own admission.
Well, and we've seen him drinking in 1992 till he was plastered.
Right on our website. That's right.
Didn't touch a drop of it. But there it was in my glass.
Well, maybe it was just ice.
Glib is in.
Okay. Can Bush read? Is George W. Bush illiterate? From Michael Moore, director of Roger and Me, TV Nation, etc. This I might take time to read this, or maybe I'll have somebody read it to me. You know, next thing, these Democrats are going to be telling you that Social Security is some kind of a federal program. I hate to point out the most successful federal program in the history of the country. I hate to point that out. I also hasten to point out that nobody is ever going to miss any Social Security payments. It's political dynamite. It's never going to happen. So it's really a moot point. But you know, when you have nothing else, when you've got 8 years of unparalleled prosperity and everybody working, and the stock market I see is way up again today. Sorry, George, too bad about that. See, George keeps waiting for these crap stocks to drop some more so we can buy some, like Xerox and BBG. Now you're beginning to understand what it's all about. You think you've got it all planned out, and you're going to move in, and then before you have a chance to even fart, all of a sudden, it's up more than what you wanted to pay for it.
So what's BBGI at right now?
I don't know, and I don't care. 3 minutes before 11 at 5, what I do care about is where the hell are our cigars? Is this man ever going to bring us just one?
No.
Just a crappy... George is wearing his nice Nick Cigar T-shirt today.
The last thing I've ever gotten from
them. That's the last thing we ever got from them. If you people at Nick's are listening down there, and I'm sure that you are, this isn't a joke. This isn't shtick that Neil's doing on the radio. This Frank son of a bitch down there in sales has absconded with every single one of your great cigars that was intended for us. And we're getting pretty goddamn porked off about it.
Sports Radio 560 WQAM Miami, Fort Lauderdale, a Beasley broadcast group station, and WQAM.com for the world.
The Neil Rogers Show, South Florida's favorite homo, starting right now on
Wonderful WQAM.
Oh yeah, this is the subject that all the girls want me to be talking about. You know what I mean? It's a song that's on every girl's mind. That's right, baby. The bulge in my pants is hard to miss. It takes 2 hands to handle it. When I jog, it flops like a fish. The gay guys all are wanting it. When I wear pants, I tuck it up my socks. But when I get shoved, it makes it hard to walk. If I showed Ricky, he'd sing aloud. I'm going penis loca. Like an elephant trunk. Gay guys all want. Like the picture I'm hung. Let me sing it again. Elephant trunk. Gay guys all want. Like the picture I'm hung. Want to see my show. Let me over, baby. My show. I love it when I get good. I love it all the time.
11:03 at 560 WQM. Happy Monday to you. Let's see. QM is going to be out tonight at the Ticket Sports Bar and Grill in Deerfield Beach on the corner of Hillsborough Boulevard and Powerline Road with the QM van. In the Kmart Plaza for Monday Night Football, they'll have the best Neil CDs and the keychains and also the great new buttons that Planned Parenthood made with me as Buddha and a whole bunch of other things. Extending my one-finger greeting. They're a beautiful thing. Thank you, Planned Parenthood. God bless you. So that's tonight in Deerfield Beach on the corner of Hillsborough and Powerline in the Kmart Plaza for Monday Night Football. And, of course, you can also go to your specs. Now, what was that lengthy message from Mark Hibnick that you were telling me about on your voicemail?
They don't have the keychains at specs.
Don't we already know that? Doesn't everybody in the world know that? They have the CDs and cassettes at specs all over town and also in Naples and Fort Myers. Do they have the keychains? No. Did we already know that? Yes. Mark Hibnick, does he work here? No, he don't work here. So what's he sticking his nose into this for? Hibby.
Well, he wants one. He wants to make sure I set one aside for him.
He wants one? No. I got one. And you're not getting it, Hibby. Well, who does he work for? Does he still work for Cox? I mean, broadcasting? 5670560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. 169 votes if you're voting tomorrow. For whom you be voting? Gore 120, Bush 29, Nader 9. How do you like that, huh? 9. Pat Buchanan 7, and Harry Browne 4. The Libertarian. Goofball. Here's a lady mobile in Miami. Hello.
Hi, Neil.
Yes, ma'am.
How you doing?
Okay.
Don't throw in the towel yet for Bush. Just give you a little feedback.
Don't throw in the towel for Bush?
Well, you know what no. Couple of things. First of all, I don't know if anyone told you about this, but my Miami Herald on Sunday came wrapped in a plastic wrapper that says vote for Bush Cheney and all Republican candidates.
Really?
Didn't you say that the Herald came out for Gore?
They endorsed all the Democratic candidates.
Yeah, well,
they endorsed Bill Nelson. They endorsed Elaine Bloom.
Well, I was so pissed. I'm sorry. May I say that?
Yeah,
I called the Herald and I ripped them Neil Rogers.
What did they say?
They said, well, they paid for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Second thing, as a volunteer working at the grassroots, being on the phones and being out waving signs, this is an unscientific poll, but given the poll...
Just as good as the rest of them.
Thank you. We were on US 1 yesterday around the falls. We were there from 3 o'clock till 5:30. And I would say 7 out of 10 cars, thumbs up, fist pumping for Gore. Oh! So listen, all of you folks out there, they want you to think Florida is over. But I'm telling you, from my experience...
Well, I mean, today's poll, he's still 2 points ahead. Gore, 47-45.
Well, they say their internal polls say that Bush is ahead by 7. The point is, every Democrat, if you have to crawl, if you need someone to just get out there, can take Florida, and don't listen to what people say, because my experience from what I say, and it's only, grassroots, but there are people out there, and especially the Cuban Americans who are afraid to admit they're Democrats. You're going to have a groundswell of votes. So just keep the faith. And we will survive. We'll still have you on Wednesday.
Okay, keep it up, sweetheart.
Bye, baby.
Bye-bye. Yeah, their internal poll, the Republicans, where they hide them?
Rectum.
Yeah, that's where the intern is. The intern is in there.
Rectum.
Unlike Bubba, who had her under the table. 5670560. See, one thing that's going to happen Wednesday, I'm going to come in here Wednesday morning, and then, of course, if Bush wins, which there's a very good chance he will, then they're going to get all these childish, idiotic, I see, what are you going to do now, Neil? And you know something? I'll still be getting the same paycheck, and I'll be taking home a lot more of it, too, if that tax cut thing passes, which it probably won't, because it's more that voodoo. See, Ronald Reagan was accused by Papa Bush of voodoo economics. This is more like voodoo economics, because it's a pile of Schmidt. Voodoo economics. None of it makes any sense. Here's Miami. Hello.
Hello, Neil. How are you?
Okay, sir.
Okay, Bush is blind as a bat. Can't see the right Reagan type of candidate. He wants to initiate a Stockman type government. Also, he wants a trilateralism, a national global thing. I can go on and on, Neil.
Yeah, I don't think so. 5670560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. Don't forget Papa Bush, the CIA, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergers. Oh, you see how this wicked web that they weave around us. All these rich Texas oil billionaires and all these special interests, they decided long ago that that W was going to be the next inheritor. He was going to be the next torchbearer. He's bearing it. Here's a lady in Hollywood. Hello.
Hi, Neil?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, this is the first time I've ever called a talk show, so I'm a little nervous.
Okay.
The American public is just making me crazy. I can't believe how close this is.
I know.
Because to me it's so obvious how insincere and arrogant and disgusting Bush is.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted to bring up was years ago, Laura Bush ran a stop sign and killed a man. Now, if that had happened to Tipper Gore...
Now, how do you know? Where did that come from?
It was in People's Magazine, October 9th issue, in black and white. And they do their research before they print anything.
Yeah.
And this when she was 17 years old, she was in a car, she was driving, and she killed a man.
Mm-hmm.
She ran a stop sign. But if that had happened to Tipper or Hillary, the media would have destroyed them.
Yeah.
Destroyed them.
I never even heard that story.
It's been pushed under the rug,
Uh-huh.
yes. But it was in People's Magazine.
Just like the cocaine arrest in 72 has been pushed under the rug, just like that abortion that Larry Flint's been talking about,
yes.
And just like all of these other things that come under the heading of youthful indiscretions, and he didn't want to talk about them.
Exactly. So I just wanted to bring it up, because if you hadn't heard it, then that means other people haven't either.
Exactly.
And I read it several weeks ago, and I've got it here in black and white.
Well, I'll guarantee you I'm not letting either one of them drive me anywhere.
You got that right.
Have a great day, sweetheart.
Thanks, Neil.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
200 votes, 143 for Gore, 35 for Bush, 9 for Nader, 8 for Buchanan, 5 for good old downtown Harry Browne. 9 minutes after 11 at 560 WQAM. What percentage have we got for Nader? 4.5% so far for Nader. You see, you people, I'm going to say it again. You Nader people, it's a free country, at least so far. You're entitled whatever you like. But keep in mind that if we can turn and blame you on Wednesday morning, this is only the beginning. This could only be the beginning of many, many, many elections like this, where a very small group of far left. See, I thought I was about as liberal as you can get, but I'm not. These people are on the fringe, just like the far right Christian evangelicals are on the right-wing fringe. These people are on the diametrically opposed way on the left-wing fringe. You're not establishing any kind of a party that's going to be a mainstream party or have any influence in this country. It's not going to happen. And over the weekend, like I said, thank goodness the independent vote and the independent liberals and the Nader people are coming back to Gore in droves. And that's got to happen in these last 24 hours. Come back to their senses. Even Marlo Thomas says her husband's been doing too much wacky weed. Or something like that. She said what did she say? He's an asshole. Yeah. 10 past 11 at 560 WQM. Will you fudge back? What the hell was that? Say it again, Jim.
Were you fudge packing?
Unbelievable. Anyways, 11:15 at 560 WQAM. 5670560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless lines. Here's a mobile in Fort Lauderdale. Hello.
Neil.
Yes, sir.
More right-wing disinformation. First of all, that woman was correct that Laura Bush did kill some guy when she was 17 years old. Manslaughter.
We're going to do that poll tomorrow. Who'd you rather have be your chauffeur? Laura Bush, George W., Rick Sanchez, Lazaro Gonzalez, or Ted Kennedy? Or Dick Cheney?
Yeah.
Can we find anybody in this country who can drive anymore?
No.
God damn it.
Now, to that cacophonic New Yorker from Delray Beach,
yeah.
He said, first of all, he said a lot of BS. Number one, he poo-pooed the Zosby poll. There's a reason why it's called the MSNBC Zosby poll. John Zosby was the most accurate pollster in the 92 and 96 presidential elections. MSNBC could hire a pollster. They hired him. Secondly, he polled all day, not just in the day, from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. And there's a reason why W was in Florida barnstorming the state yesterday, because he's trailing. He was in Jacksonville, West Palm Beach, Miami, Tampa, Orlando. His brother, the bigger little brother, was on 4 out of the 5 talk shows because he's trailing. His brother's Jeb Bush, if W loses Florida, Jeb Bush's political career is sunk.
Mm-hmm.
And also, as far as the absentee ballots, 100,000 people have applied for an absentee ballot. Not 100,000 Republicans have applied for ballots. I mean, this guy was just being...
Don't confuse him with the facts, man.
Okay? And lastly, in 1960, in 1968, and 1976, the incumbents surged, okay, because of buyer's remorse over the challenger. And that's what's happening now. We're seeing it in the Zosby poll, where it's now 46-47. We're seeing it in the Gallup poll, where it's 45-47. And the blacks are coming home, the liberals are coming home. And let me say one thing to the Nader supporters. Ralph Nader is not going to win this election. Ralph Nader is not going to win one state. Ralph Nader is not going to win one electoral vote, one county, one precinct, one district. Ralph Nader ain't winning bupkis, okay? He's not winning bupkis, okay? So you're just throwing away your vote. If you want to vote for Bush,
okay.
Vote for Bush.
Okay, calm down. That's our hysterical Gore man. Well, listen, at least he's whipped up and fired up and pissed off. Let's hear it for him, okay? Now if we can just get everybody else, all those old farts, the old Jews, the Schwarzers, fags, all the women out there who care about keeping government out of their uterus. 5670560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. How's that poll coming? Tremendous response here. 236 votes. If you're voting tomorrow, who you be voting for? Al Gore, 164, a little under 70%. George W, 45, 19%. Oh, now the Naderites, they heard they weren't doing that great, so now there's 13, 5.5%. Buchanan, 8, and the Harry Fudge Browne, 6. See, these Nader people, it's kind of like, oh, we're stubborn, and we're going to show you a thing or two, all you goddamn Republicans and Democrats. We're going to show you how we can mess it all up. Well, go ahead. Go ahead, because everything that you believe in is going to go right in the toilet, and you'll be responsible for it. Here's Hollywood. Hello.
How you doing?
Oh, that's right, but I forgot Patty Smith is for Nader. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I had 4 things. I hope I can get them all in here.
Okay, number 1?
You're right about the Nader thing. I think that there's a lot of people I know who like Nader, including myself, but if he messes this up, he's going to have a hell of a time trying to build a Green Party, which I support, but it's going to take a long-term a long-time commitment to build such a party up if it's going to last.
Mhm.
And these people need...
It's not going to last on the far left. There's no constituency for it.
Well,
it's always going to be
so,
a tiny minority party. What's it going to accomplish?
Right. Well, I'm saying even if so, even for the sake of argument that it does, they're still going to need our support. And after 4 years at W, if they mess this thing up, they're not going to have our support. So, I mean, they should look at it that way. We need their support now. I'll be glad to sign anything for Nader after the election is over.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, we need their support. Second of all, George W. Bush, the stuff that's coming out, he's going to make Clinton look like a choir boy, okay? Plus, he's going to mess up the economy. People need to read the book you were talking about, Paul Begala's book, and get information. And this is not a partisan issue. This is a disaster. This man does not have the experience to run this country, and he's going to mess it up. Third of all, you were talking about, I hear you talk kiddingly, vote 3 or 4 times. We can't do that, but we can get people out to the polls. Talk to somebody, take somebody out there, let's get into it. And fourth of all, I got free rides to the polls here, numbers. If you could repeat these on your air so everybody can get out there.
Okay.
In Dade County, it's 305-354-2770. That's 305-354-2770. Broward County, it's 954-923-8488. 923-8488. Palm Beach is 561-279-4466. 561-279-4466. There's no excuse not to go to the polls. Get out there. Let's show a Democratic turnout. This guy, George W., is going to mess up this country. We need to get out and vote for Gore.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
That's going. Thank you. Wow. Okay, I wrote the numbers down. George wrote them down, so we'll have them for you. No excuse. Even if you're on your hands and legs, on your last legs, free rides, they'll slip you. They'll drag you there. Here's a 567-0560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. Here's a mobile in Boca. Hello. Mobile in Boca. Sounds dead as a doornail to me. Here's Fort Myers again. Hello.
Hey, Neil, how you doing?
Okay.
Hey, I tell you what, if you think there's a better country to live in, why don't you take your fat, gay, Jew butt there, okay?
Already have.
Bye.
Yeah, bye. There you go. There's all those. Now they're coming out in Fort Myers. Well, we ordinarily are almost getting no calls, but now they're all coming out together. They finally left their sheep alone. They're letting them heal up a little bit this morning. Got to the phone. Hey, guess what, pal? I'm not going anywhere. And you're one of those many people over there. First of all, you're listening voluntarily to this show, which astonishes me, because you got nothing to do with us over here, thank God. And number two, you're one of those people that just dying between noon and 1 o'clock, or between noon and 2, depending on which day of the week the Beasley decide to screw up with this show. You don't know what the hell to do with yourself. Or your boyfriend. 567-0560. What a place, man. The Southwest Corridor. Whatever the hell they call it. For my Lee and Collier County. God, see, that's my luck. Yeah, that's the Beasley's idea of putting me on nationwide, is Fort Myers and Naples. Wow. Just like the time we were on in Tampa. Remember those couple of years? Those were good. That's my luck. Here's a mobile in Kendall. Hello.
Neil.
Yes, sir.
Neil, it's Tom. It's an old friend of yours from Sunset Drive many years ago when you lived out here. I'm a good old faithful Republican who voted for Nixon, Ford, Bush, and I'm happy to say I voted for Clinton the last 2 elections. But I'm out here with a couple of Peruvian Democrat friends of mine, and we want to know if you've had any information on the Gore rally tonight in Sunset, out in South Beach.
Yeah, somebody just called it a while ago.
Can you get that information out over the air for us?
Well, she gave it on the air. Well,
we didn't get it. I didn't know if anybody wrote it down or somebody could call back later and see if we could get it.
Okay. Somebody will call back. Okay, thank you. What do you say? What are you getting so animated for in there? You're getting some crazy.
Oh, yeah, they're hostile.
What about?
What do you think? Got all these rednecks calling about this, the station where all the queers and niggers call up to talk about their...
Yes,
that's
the station, right. This is the one. So it's obviously not your station, okay? Find your own station. In fact, Lard Ass, I think, is he on pretty soon. Fat Ass will be on there. spouting that same hypocritical right-wing bullcrap. Had a great facts about that, about how when Bubba was, caught with his pants down, all of that stuff on, and about the tremendous hysteria and the outrage and the psychosis. And now that we turn it around, it's like, oh boy, mum's the word. How purely political this all is. And look at the timing and yada, yada, yada. Here's a mobile in Pembroke Pines. Hello.
Hello, Neil.
Yes, sir.
I think the wisest choice, I agree with you, is to go with Gore. However, I'm very much interested in the third party. When you listen to Ralph Nader, and I really believe a lot of what he points out is very accurate. And he seems as if he has a lot of the points in mind that you discuss.
Oh, you mean like eliminating the Senate and eliminating the military?
Well, I mean, how about campaign reform? How about the farce?
Well, you're picking and choosing. Sir, you're picking and choosing, and there is no question that there are a few of the things that he talks about that I agree with wholeheartedly, makes a lot of sense. But the fact is that when you look at the entire platform of the Green Party, in fact, even he doesn't agree with the entire platform of the Green Party. That's what makes it so ridiculous.
Well, then how do we get all the disaffected? I mean, I think a third party can easily sum it up in maybe 4 years from now.
No.
If they get the 5%.
Not a third party on the far left or the far right, and Ralph Nader isn't the one who's going to lead it. It's going to have to be somebody more moderate. It's never going to happen in this country.
Well, I mean, but do you think a third party can get 20%?
Well, Perot got 19% 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's a moron. So yeah, if there were a third party that appealed more to the mainstream, that was a real populist party, sure.
Someone like a Jesse Ventura?
Well, maybe, although, can you imagine what they would do to him? Mr. Atheist Jesse Ventura? He'd be done. No, seriously, he'd be done before he started.
You think?
I don't think. I know. Just ask Drew Lieberman, he'll tell you. We need to bring faith back. We need to help those faith-based charities. We need to put a lot more full-page ads in there condemning everybody and their brother in the name of Jesus. That's what it's all about. You better get with it, mister. 26, just like those calls you're talking about off the air. All those wonderful people.
How much dope did you smoke while you were on vacation?
Not enough. 26 after 11 at 560 WQM. Probably not as much as George W. Didn't do no cocaine. Didn't get no DUIs or DWIs. Didn't kill no pedestrians.
The Neil Rogers Show. Sports Radio 560. QAM.
You gotta keep your Jackson straight here.
I saw Paula Jones in Penthouse today. Like a car crash, I couldn't look away. It burned my eyes. What can I say? If there's one thing worse than her face, it's her legs wide open. It's such a bad sight.
All right.
See Clinton's favorite place. She showed us everything with legs wide open. With her legs wide open.
And next thing they're going to be telling us that Social Security is some kind of federal program. God damn it. 11:32 at 560 WQM. Here's a nice note card on that beautiful plant from Randy Multash and the Ticket Defense Team. Thanks, Randy. Thanks, Ticket Defense Team. You guys are the best. Every year, never fail. Always come true. I think we'll just leave that one here. You've taken enough crap home. Oh, and you missed out the beautiful roses, the pink roses that wound up with Joe Costello's lady friend.
Right.
Huh? Beautiful. They were pink. You know who they were from, don't you?
Jeff Cohen.
No, but you're getting close. I'll give you a clue.
I'm a fat Jew.
Yeah, Mr. Suckermouth. Oh, that's right. I forgot. He put your picture in the screw. Although I don't want to tell you where he said, you know what showed your tongue? I don't want to tell you where he said your tongue was.
Rectum.
Anyway, Roger Moore, Michael Moore, director of Roger and Me, TV Nation, etc., writes, and this goes back a month, but it's still good reading. He says, as I write this, there are 2 presidential debates left. I have a suggestion for Jim Lehrer. Don't ask George W. Bush any further questions about Social Security or prescription drugs or mandatory testing for students and teachers. Just get up out of your moderator's seat and take a copy of a book, any book. Walk over to Governor Bush, hand it to him, and ask him to read. That's right, just ask him to read from anywhere in the book. I have a hunch that he can't read. I know this is an outrageous thing to say. I have no proof. It's just been an impression that's been sticking in my craw for some time. I'm reluctant to make this observation not only because it seems so cruel, but also just the possibility of it is so surreal and unlikely that no sane man would ever utter such a thing. But I was struck by something in last week's debate. Bush never wrote down even a single word on the legal pad in front of him during the debate. I've never seen a debater, even Ronald Reagan, refused to jot even one word down so he wouldn't forget to respond to it. Was Bush not writing anything because his mind is a steel trap with an enhanced memory, storage, and impeccable collating capabilities? I'm honestly worried he can't read and write at an adult level. Back in the primary, he was asked what his favorite book was as a child. He replied, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. As it turned out, that book wasn't published until he was in his 20s. Everyone laughed it off at the time. From that point on, his response has been his favorite book is the Bible, and his favorite hero is Jesus, and his favorite philosopher is Jesus, and when Oprah asked him, what are you sure of, he replied, Jesus and the Bible. Christopher Hitchens, no friend of the Clinton-Gore administration, reports in The Nation this month that when Bush's aides would give him briefing papers to read, he would ask others to read them for him, or just give him a verbal summary. Of course, a briefing paper is just that, a summary, a brief. No one, it seems, saw Bush read them. Gail Sheehy in Vanity Fair writes that Bush has a learning disability, that he's dyslexic. This is a serious and frustrating handicap faced by millions of Americans, but it's not a scarlet letter. Lots of people I know are dyslexic, and there are things they do to overcome it. The Bush can't deny the charge, and no one in the media followed up. The media, in fact, has stopped reporting how consistent and how often Bush mixes up his words and just says the wrong damn thing. At first it was cute and funny in an Archie Bunker sort of way, but it's not just the word subliminal that he has a problem with. The mangling of the language happens in virtually every speech I've heard the governor make. Even though every speech is scripted and he repeats it almost verbatim in friendly robot-like tones at every campaign stop, he can't help but lose himself in words he is supposed to say. It was no mistake that at one point during the debate, when he started down his robot path, he realized he wasn't answering the question, went silent, and then said, I forgot the question, looking like a lost schoolboy. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't point this out with any glee or condescension. I'm not exactly Mr. Intelligence here. Just read any of these columns or my internet letters, and you'll find them chock full of misspellings, improper grammar, and bizarre syntax, in spite of my best efforts to the editors or staff assistants who are simply overwhelmed and defeated by my assault on the King's English. But I'm not running for President of the United States, and I'm not attacking teachers for doing a lousy job, and I'm not making phony promises that not one child shall be left behind when in the state of Texas more poor kids go without health care than in any other state in the country. I got a call last week from someone I know at Yale. A friend of the person had secretly gone to the records facility and looked up the original transcript of George W. Bush from 1964 to 68. Not only were his grades, all that we've heard about, C's and D's and not a single A, but it looked as if they were written on a file card over other grades that had been erased. Could there have been original grades that were worse than the ones he's admitted to? I'm all for the dumb guys, being one myself. I dropped out of college after the first year. I still don't know if a mount has one M or two, but the leader of the free world should at least be able to read or say explicit instead of exquisite, as Bush did in Detroit in September when he referred to the exquisite sex and violence in the movies. Don't we deserve better? Mr. Lehrer, Governor Bush, here's a copy of Green Eggs and Ham. Please turn to page 12 and read for us. Can we sum it up by saying, yeah, he's done? 5670560, and you'll notice the people that were calling you off the air, what do they have in common with him? They're dumb. Yeah. Yeah. Birds of a feather flock together. I remember as a kid, the first time I paid any attention, because I was old enough, I was 10 years old, 1952, was when Eisenhower ran against Adlai Stevenson. And Adlai Stevenson was an egghead. I mean, a brilliant man, a genius, a great articulate speaker. And Eisenhower was a war hero, but almost illiterate. He had a lot of interest in what was going on. There were just so many words, just kind of like this guy, that he couldn't pronounce. Landslide, Eisenhower. And then I remember in 1956, Stevenson ran again against Eisenhower. No chance. War hero. He had a lot of interest in what was going on. He had John Foster Dulles, the Secretary of State, who was largely responsible for what's going on in the world today in the Middle East. But we're not supposed to think about that, about those mistakes. So never overestimate the intelligence of the American people when picking their leaders, because they like to pick somebody who better reflects their own intelligence or lack thereof. They gravitate toward dumb. As in, what color is an orange on the Regis show? What color is an orange? That's why that show is so, but no, they like that. They like the question because they can actually answer some of them. Like the $100 question. 22, and here's the information. 10 o'clock on South Beach. Ocean Drive between 6th and 7th Streets is the rally tonight. Al Gore and Stevie Wonder will be there. And who else did you say?
Deborah Cox.
Don't say that. Free tickets at Democratic headquarters. Just call, if you don't know where the Democratic headquarters are by you and Data Broward, just call information and ask for the Democratic headquarters, and they'll give you a number.
And it's a marathon. Apparently it'll be going on all night and some of tomorrow.
Starting at 10 o'clock tonight, down on South Beach. Free drugs out here. 567-0560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. 22 before 11 at QAM.
O'Neill, my queen, God.
Tonight on Fox, lock up the bagels and cream cheese and prepare for a wild ride when Fox presents When Jews Attack, sponsored by the Committee to Elect George W. Bush and by KFC, where you can get the new GOP bucket. The GOP bucket is all white meat, right wings, and only $29.95. When Jews Attack, tonight on Fox.
George Bush is going to be watching, and you still didn't see McLaughlin and Company, did you?
No, I
God
didn't.
Damn it. Bye-bye. 567-0560, pound 5, I'm not even gonna ask, you know. They just don't care. Am I ever gonna get to that point where I can just say, give me the money and, screw it? I'm working on it real hard. I got my bishop's putty in my hand right now, and I'm squeezing it real hard, and the putty too. Got my, little finger on it. Here's a lady mobile in Pembroke Pines. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Somebody stole my thunder with a Vanity Fair article. I'm surprised nobody said anything before about the guy who'd rather be baseball commissioner. And this is a government by committee when you're dealing with him. People are voting for him. And you know what? I'm not...
Anybody with even a small brain should realize he's just a figurehead. He's a puppet.
That's exactly right. But, you know, I'm not that smart. But you know what? Whoever's running the country, I certainly want them to be a lot smarter than I am.
Right. Well, why should anybody be... Remember when the thing first came out about a year ago about his grades at Yale and about the C business, which evidently is a lie now, but... And it was like people gravitated to that, like, oh, yeah, he's like one of us. He's not too bright.
Yeah, but is that who you want as your president?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And in addition to which, when he says, you know, I'll know where Kosovo is on a map when somebody shows me. Well, what is that?
Hello,
yeah.
Wake up, America.
Right.
This is, well, bless you for the information you're spouting out there, because people need to make this decision and get out there and vote.
3 or 4 times.
So important. Yeah, 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
Absolutely. Bless you, Neil, and have a good day.
Thanks,
Keep up
you
the
too.
good work.
You know, next thing they're going to be telling you that Social Security is a federal program. 303 votes on there. Now, let me just recommend very enthusiastically, if you couldn't do it Friday over the weekend, you go to our website, neilrogers.com, not just to vote in our poll, but also to take a look at that George W. Bush Jr. stars in Wedded This, as in... And I showed it to George this morning. Now, I'm not saying conclusively that he's drunk out of his mind in that film clip on there, but it sure as hell looks like it to me. And I'm also going to tell you that the way he chugs down the end of his drink there at the ass end of the video, which be sure you watch the whole thing, people don't chug their ginger ale or their club soda. Believe me when I tell you. They don't even chug their diet RC Cola. And then be sure and look right under that video clip. The Nation, there's the Alfred E. Newman picture of George W. George W. Bush Jr. skeleton closet. Click that on and do some reading. Do some real interesting reading, and then make up your own mind. I mean, you can assume if you want that it's all BS or it's all propaganda. Make up your own mind. But it's there for you. Here's Coral Gables. Hello.
Oh, all the people are really getting hysterical today.
Well, it's, you know, I mean, they've been building us up to this for months now, might as well.
Worried about losing their public housing and vouchers for new cars and welfare.
Welfare, yeah.
Yeah, why don't I get a job instead of calling you?
Okay, great. Why don't they get a job instead of calling me? What are you doing, asshole? Why don't they get a job instead of calling me? And here's talk about the pot calling the kettle real black. Welfare, which the welfare rolls were reduced 44% in the last 8 years under Clinton and Gore, asshole. But everybody, of course, who's against Bush is on the welfare rolls. They don't have to depend on those faith-based charities. Yeah, hold your breath. Same old crap. Same anti-human assholes. All they care about is their fetus. They don't care about you people who are living or maybe down and out, need a little bit of help. All they care about is the fetus and those fetus killers. And I mean, you know, and while those people were executed in Texas, just take a look at that great record, how crime has come down there. That's because they're killing everybody. Even if your lawyer sleeps through the trial, no problem. Come here, let's give you a little shot. I'll say it again. Just keep it in mind when you're there voting tomorrow. If you love the National Rifle Association, if you love the big pharmaceutical companies that are raping the public. In fact, you know something? I'm going to read that again. I'm going to read that article again. And if you love the tobacco companies like Philip Morris, which is the number 1 contributor to the Bush campaign, then by all means vote for W. Because that's what it's all about. Just like Gore is saying now in his speeches about how, he's going to get along with people in Washington, and who are the people he's going to get along with. I just gave you a short list. Here's that article again from Newsweek last week, the date October 30th. Bush's pal, the drug lobbyist. A Texas insider and his links to a hot-button political issue by Michael Isikoff. To demonstrate his bipartisan ways at last week's debate, George W. Bush introduced the nation to Hugo Berlanga, a Democratic friend in the audience. He's the chairman of the Health Committee, said Bush. He came here for a reason, to tell our record on health in Texas. Some viewers in Austin were surprised to hear that. Berlanga once did chair the House Public Health Committee, but he left the legislature more than 3 years ago. Now he's a lobbyist representing corporate and healthcare interests before the panel he once chaired. The revolving door career of Berlanga is hardly unique to the Texas State House. Al Gore's advisors include Tom Downey, an ex-congressman who lobbies for clients like Microsoft. But Berlanga's emergence as the Bush spokesman on health care touches on one of the campaign's hot-button issues, the debate over how to reduce the prices that older Americans pay for prescription drugs. While he was still a Texas lawmaker, Berlanga was well known for defending one brand-name drug in particular, Coumadin, a blood thinner used by 2 million people, mostly heart patients and the elderly, to prevent blood clots. The drug was a lucrative profit maker for 2 big drug companies, DuPont Pharmaceuticals and Merck, which manufactured Coumadin as part of a joint venture. But in 1997, the FDA approved a generic alternative, warfarin, which sold for half as much. DuPont quickly launched a campaign in state capitals to stifle warfarin sales. In Texas, Berlanga, with Bush's support, successfully led the effort. Austin lobbyists say he threatened to kill the bills of colleagues who failed to support his measure, which would have required pharmacists to double-check with doctors before dispensing warfarin. Consumer groups were outraged. In my mind, this was an attempt to protect the market share of our company, says Sheila Holbrook-White, executive director of Texas Citizen Action, of one company. Berlanga insists that his stand was philosophical. He thinks brand-name drugs are safer than generics. That philosophy paid off. Immediately after the 1997 legislative session, Berlanga set up shop as a lobbyist. One of his first clients, DuPont Pharmaceuticals, which paid him $100,000 to block efforts to overturn his Coumadin bill. In the end, the Texas State Pharmacy Board effectively neutralized Berlanga's measure and made warfarin available in the state. But that hasn't hurt Berlanga's lobbying career, as firm has become a mecca for state contractors and hospital chains. He never pushes his client's business with the governor. He insists, although he acknowledges that I have great entree to Bush by mere nature of the fact that we're very good friends. He also has one of the nicknames that Bush bestows on his favorite pals. Berlanga is Mr. Chairman. There you go. So like I said, if you love the big pharmaceutical companies that are raping you and the elderly, all of us at all ages, then by all means, you know your man tomorrow. Man, you know something? We must have an awful lot of rich rednecks out there, you know? Must be. They must be doing fantastic. Most of them are. Just waiting for those tax cuts. Here's Fort Lauderdale. Hello.
Hey, Neil. How you doing?
Okay.
I've got a couple of things for you. One of them is I ordered the book on Is Our Children Learning?
Yes, sir.
And that book lists for $12. Ordered off your site. I got it for $8 with shipping included.
There you go. What more could you want?
Huh?
What more could you want?
Oh, no, they're great. The second thing is that I couldn't believe it after you were talking about Bush. You know what the ad was on right after that? Bush beer.
How do you like that?
And third thing is these people over in Fort Myers, I think they practice animal husbandry on sheep and goats.
Okay, and have a great day. What do you say? Lieberman could be Gore's secret weapon, George W. said to an aide. I got to see what this Jewish stuff is all about. So off they went to a kosher restaurant. The first course was set in front of them, matzo ball soup. George W. was hesitant to taste this strange-looking brew. Gently, the aide said, just have a taste. If you don't like it, you don't have to finish it. George W. dug in, spooning up a piece of a matzo ball with some soup, tasting it gingerly at first, but quickly finishing the entire bowl. That was delicious, George W. said. Can you eat any other part of the matzah, or do they just eat the balls? Nice going, whoever sent me that. 5670560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless lines. Here's Naples. Hello.
Yes, hi, Neil. How you doing?
Okay.
Listen, I'm sorry that this call comes from the West.
Yeah, I know, and we're sorry, too. Give it a rest, Chronic. Give it a rest. Same old tired crap. Day after day after day. I'm so sorry. In fact, you know what? I think we ought to take out that line. That no, seriously, and don't think that they wouldn't jump at it. I said I'm thinking about it. Maybe if they get line fixed, we'll take that line out. Because it's just a waste of money. You know, it's one thing to be on the air over there, but the number of really rational calls from sane people that we get from anywhere over there on the West Coast, you could stick deep inside your rectum and have a lot of room left over, believe me. Here's a lady in Fort Lauderdale. Hello.
Hi.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Neil. How are you?
Okay.
Listen, Neil, I was looking at C-SPAN this weekend. Ralph Nader was
I'm so sorry.
And and he's stealing the Democratic votes. He's actually in cahoots with the Republican Party because he ran an ad. They ran an ad where it was sponsored by the Republican Party, and then they asked him a couple questions.
Yeah, they're using his quotes. Yeah, and he says he's not happy about it, but there's nothing he can do about it. Right.
Yeah, right. Okay, I just wanted to put that out and let people know what's happening here.
Okay, well, they better think long and hard tomorrow before they become the problem. Because if they waste their vote on Nader and it winds up being real close, and the Bush would win Florida or Michigan or Pennsylvania because of that, they're the ones that are going to stick us over in the right wing for the next probably 8 years.
You're absolutely right. It's really scary that George Bush may, become the president.
And the article that I just read again from Newsweek there, Michael Isikoff's article about the pharmaceutical companies and about consumerism again. Here you go. That's supposed to be Nader's number one issue, consumerism. The word hypocrite comes to mind in all of this. Two big words, ego and hypocrite. That's what comes to mind when I think of Ralph Nader. Runaway ego. 5, 6, and I don't disagree with a lot of those people who say, well, the two-party system is corrupt and it's a bad choice. Something that's true. But take some time to work up a meaningful third party. I mean, even the People's Party, even Ross Perot with all his double talk about rolling up your sleeves and all that bull crap, even he had a broader appeal than this goofball. Marginal third parties are meaningless. They're a waste of time, especially when they're way, way off on the extreme left. Here's Plantation. Hello.
Hey, Neil. How you doing?
All right.
Speaking of how meaningless, Nader's fighting for $12 million from the government, for matching funds. The insurance industry alone, as of the summer, gave Bush and his cronies, the RNC, $175 million.
Yeah.
Just in this election, but just one industry. So I don't know how these Nader people think, big deal. I mean, the Republican Party gives out $12 million like toothpicks. It makes no difference. $12 million is nothing.
Not to mention the millions the NRA contributed just last month alone to the Bush campaign. Millions and millions and millions.
And the other thing is the Bush Bing Bang came on the other day and said how honorable and how spectacular Bush's performance was in dealing with the DUI issue. He said he was the most honorable thing he's ever seen. It brought tears to his eyes, he said, as opposed to, obviously he lied about the fact that he had a conviction and he never told about it. And he told the reporter in 1998 that he had no conviction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is disqualifying in any court of law. If they're so hot on Clinton saying you lied and, you lied under oath, well, I'm sure there are applications out there that he filled out. He said that he did not have conviction. Expungement does not take away the fact that he was convicted.
Yeah.
And the fact
I sure like to find out sometime in the next 12 hours some of the rest of that stuff that he says that he doesn't want to talk about.
Yeah, it's scary.
Have a great day,
Thank
pal.
you.
Good luck to us. 11:56 at 560Q. I mean, I was just looking all over to see where my copy for Pizza Loft was. Not that I should need it because I've been doing their spots a long time. Jeff Cohen was in here the other day and was squalling. He brought Tanner in the other day.
Oh,
Tanner.
squalling, you said.
Yeah, he was crawling all over the floor, as usual. And you wouldn't believe some of the outrageous crap he was saying.
I didn't say The only sign of life in this miserable ass town. The Neil Rogers Show. And he's still on.
Wonderful WQAM. It's revealing a thing. Emphatically he denied. He was dressing his mind. He ain't revealing a thing. He ain't revealing a thing. don't care what they ever did. George Bush knew back when he was a kid. It was his favorite thing. More than something. He wants the White House to be all here like a Patrick Buchanan. So he can be rich, he feels like sin. George comes from the best time of his life. Oh, that's the way it's all. Not a social control, but he denies it today. George Bush, you will never get him to stay. He was his favorite thing. Johnny Jr. gets out.
1202 at 560 WQM. Here's something that ought to open up your ears and maybe some other body parts.
Rectum.
From yesterday's London Sunday Times. Bush can't run for president if he committed federal felony concerning altering military records illegally, says the Sunday Times. A former senior commanding officer in the Air National Guard has come forward to allege that the Bush campaign actually cleansed the Texas Air National Guard records in order to make them conform to the official Bush biography that was being written at the time of the cleansing. He also alleges that records which would be normally released under an FOIA request for a serviceman's public records were missing from the FOIA release, and asserts that those could clear up the questions about Bush's military career. The critical question to me still is, if GW really completed his assigned 6-year commitment, then why was his surrogate, Dan Bartlett, of Senior National Guard Officers of Texas, not provided his pay files and complete retirement points listing, which are the only two documents which officially provide the detailed evidence to answer the question to prove it and clear this issue from the campaign? I mean, this goes on for 2 pages. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's pretty damn interesting. His testimony follows Dan Bartlett. As the state plans officer for the Texas National Guard, I was on full-time duty at Camp Mabry when when Dan Mabry was cleansing the George W. Bush file prior to G.W. Bush's presidential announcement. For most soldiers at Camp Mabry, this was a generally known event. The archives were closely scrutinized to make sure that the Bush autobiography plans and the record did not directly contradict each other. In essence, it was the script of the autobiography which Dan Bartlett and a small team used to scrub a file to be released. The effort further involved General Daniel James and Chief of Staff William W. Goodwin at Camp Mabry. I knew one person who worked with the records scrub who commented to me while at the smoke area that the Bush files really showed some problems with his blue blood service record. If GW or anybody else can come forward to prove the case that GW was not AWOL, then that's great for them and for the Bush candidacy. I furnished Mr. It's blanked out. The name of a person in Dallas who was the campaign supervisor for young George W. during the Alabama Senate campaign. That person told me without batting an eye that GW was partying, not working on the campaign, and in fact had betted a beautiful young wife of an up-and-coming author later to publish the book Forrest Gump, for whom he was renting a garage apartment, from whom. She further said that George W. was neither sober nor dependable throughout the entire campaign. She indicated that George W. was asked about his guard requirements, and when he was going to drill, he did not provide feedback of any kind. Well, he might have been drilling something. Yes, the critical question to me is, if GW really completed his assigned 6-year commitment, then why has his surrogate, Dan Bartlett, or Senior National Guard Officers of Texas, not provided those pay files and his complete retirement points listing? And it goes on and on in great detail. And I'll say it again, that would be a felony. But again, we got another Teflon candidate. Leave it to the Republicans, baby. They know how to do it. Teflon candidate. Oh! It all just kind of slides off.
He needs right there with those 3 states, but he needs 65, so take me elsewhere.
Okay, well, don't discount Iowa. I mean, and...
Yeah, okay. Oh, they're doing the electoral shuffle on there? See, I've got that figured out already. Assuming that they know what they're talking about right now. I got Bush with 224 electoral votes wrapped up and Gore with 185. Which means that Bush could win New Mexico, Tennessee, Arkansas, West Virginia, and Wisconsin and still come up short. That would give him 262. Gore, who has 185, needs 85 more, which means he would need Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Iowa, Washington, and Oregon. A tall order, but possible. If Gore loses either Florida, Pennsylvania, or Michigan, I think finito. Here's Coral Springs. Hello. Coral Springs.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Listen, Neil, good afternoon. The people who have at this time of this game don't know how to vote for Bush or Gore, tell them to stay home. But the people who are voting for Nader or Patrick Buchanan, the best thing is to tell them that it's the Supreme Court, stupid. We could survive 4 years of Bush, but we can't survive 20 years of the Supreme Court with Scalia and Thomas.
40
Take
years.
care of
Yeah.
everything.
That's right.
And those Native people, everything they want, the Supreme, if we ever have a Native presidency, God forbid, they'll have everything that they adhere for them will be already decided by the Supreme Court. The election,
That is correct. That's absolutely right.
Environment, education, everything we're taking care of. So don't waste your vote because, even if you ever get the presidency, you will not be able to change anything that a right-wing Supreme Court will take care of.
Amen. Well said.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good luck to us.
I agree. 379 votes on our poll so far. If you're voting tomorrow, for whom are you voting? Al Gore, 264, 70%. George W., 77, 20%. Nader, 17, 4.4%. Harry Browne, 12, 3.1%. And Pat Buchanan, you know how many Pat Buchanan's got? Only 9, 2.3%. Now, see, that's our audience, of course. You'd expect Gore to be having a big lead. And, of course, a lot of the Bush people have gone bye-bye. They're very upset. They hate us like poison now. Too bad. See ya. See you someday, or not. Here's a lady in Hallandale. Hello.
Oh, hi.
Yes, ma'am.
Neil, I heard something on Meet the Press yesterday. Excuse me for getting nervous.
I saw it.
Did you?
Yes.
But nothing's been said about it.
Well, what is
the
it?
fact that he said no money should be sent to Israel because he's against that because they're on Palestinian ground and the Palestinians are fighting with.
Well, don't forget he's one of his mother father's brother is an Arab. So
Palestinians are fighting with rocks and
yeah. Well, let me say it again. Talk to George about that. I don't care. 5670560. No, George is going to be on for several weeks talking about the obnoxious Israelis and how they smell bad. 9 minutes past noon is 560, or is it the other way around? Was it the Palestinians? Oh, they all smell bad.
They all smell bad.
Okay. Well, maybe if they'd stop throwing those rocks and wearing those shmatas, especially the Hasidim. Well, I like that. How's Jew Lieberman doing with all this stuff, with the Hasidim? Thank God. Well, there's Florida, 49. Oh, this is brand new. 49 for Gore, 46 for Bush, 4 for Nader. That's brand new. Is that brand new or not? Let me take a look at the... Huh? No, it's old. Well, that's from yesterday. It's the latest we got from MSNBC/Zogby/Reuters/ this. Like OJ would say, /this.
I want to bang you in the butt, honey.
On the next Cops, Eminem shows how bad a white suburban gangster rapper can be.
They were approaching the suspect. Apparently he wasn't happy with his order, and he's backing up the entire drive-through line.
Yeah, what the you call this a Happy Meal? You these fries are cold, G. What the pickles doing on this?
Watch as Eminem gets arrested for vandalizing a McDonald's playground slot. All that and more on the next Cops.
Tonight on Fox. 12:13 at 560 WQAM. Here's another one of the classic G.W. Bush quotes. He says, and this is coming in just the day before Election Day, a low voter turnout is an indication of fewer people going to the polls. Oh! All right, let's hear it for W, okay? Somebody read that to him. You can go to bushwatch.com on your computer there. That's the website you can go to, bushwatch.com, and get all that business about the cleansing of Bush's military records and all the other stuff about the DWI and all that other good stuff. Bushwatch.com. And, of course, the mainstream media, as usual, doing a real crappy job, just like glossing over the thing about the reporter from the Dallas Morning News. Tragic. See, if they were running on the amoral platform, then you'd say, all right, at least they're consistent. But they're running as the goody two-shoes people. We've had all 8 years of all this. What the hell did William Bennett call it the other day? Or no, it was Perot. Perot called it a Animal House. We've had 8 years of Animal House. So if these are supposed to be the morality candidates, how the hell can that be? Just don't get it. Yeah, Bill Bennett was on there yesterday going, Sieg Heil, like that over and over again. Of course, you know who his good friend always was until he became a candidate for vice president, Drew Lieberman. There's a good match for you. See, no matter how the election comes out tomorrow, especially if Bush wins a real close race, which it could be, or it could be, who knows? Pollsters haven't got any idea. They're scared schmittless that they could be very, very wrong, and they could be. But there's that silent anti-Semitic vote out there, the Jew Lieberman factor, and leave it to the Democratic Party. They don't even know how to do it. Because I guarantee you that the overwhelming majority of Jews who are going to come out and vote for Gore would have voted almost no matter who the vice presidential candidate would have been. Could have been Dick Gebhardt. They'd have come out for Dick. I know I would have. But no, we had to go. See, they didn't learn from, Geraldine Ferraro. Not that Mondale had much of a chance in '84 against Teflon Ron, but the fact is, if he had any chance, she sealed his fate. That was finito. That was the end. See, if you're going to put a candidate on the ballot who's got mafia connections in the family somewhere, put somebody on there who's a great candidate like Mario Cuomo that the public wouldn't care about. Not Geraldine freaking Ferraro. Remember that deal with her husband with his mob connections? And then I guess the public decided we didn't even do another vowel movement. That's the problem with those candidates with the vowel at the end of their name thing. I'm incoherent. Here's Pompano. Hello.
Hey, happy birthday.
Thank you.
I ran into Al Goldstein yesterday. He told me he sent you a dozen pansies.
Yeah.
Just two things real quick. I was at the Broward County Library the other day, and there was a young girl there that was working on one of the computers. She has a white T-shirt on. I happened to walk by her. It says on the back of her T-shirt in big blue letters, it's a white shirt, George W. Bush. And the W is larger, and it's in red. Underneath the George W. Bush, it says the W stands for women. I thought to myself that this girl was just so absolutely uninformed. She had to be like 28, 30 years old. I mean, how people can do...
Maybe she's a fetus hugger.
I just don't get all this. I don't get it. And nowadays, in this era, it's not who you're voting for, it's who you're voting against. And, you know, the Ralph Nader people, they're thinking, well, we're voting against Bush, too, but we're going our own direction. We got to totally turn the country around. It's going to screw everything up. I'm not a Gore fan, but I just cannot see Bush getting in there. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I can't even see the idea that we're the day before the election and that he's either dead even or slightly ahead is so implausible to me that it defies description. I mean, I give the example of Stevenson and Eisenhower, but at least Eisenhower was a famous war general. Right. He was a national hero. What is this guy? What is his claim to fame?
No, it's absolutely ridiculous.
1.5 terms as a figurehead governor in a state where the governor has less power than any other state in America.
What was the deal with Nixon and Kennedy? Well, I mean, with the debates and all that. Was it as close then as this is now? I mean, they were saying that Kennedy came out in like the last 3 days and pulled the election.
7 o'clock in the morning the following day is when they finally announced the winner. In fact, they showed an old kinescope of Huntley and Brinkley announcing 7 o'clock the next morning. It took till then to come up with the winner. And they gave wrong information. They said that Kennedy won California, which later on he wound up losing, but he still won the election.
Wow. Okay, listen, that's it. Let's just pray for the best. And I saw George's picture in that magazine. George, what are you doing?
Okay, have a great day. See, that's your friend Al giving you a lot of publicity with a brown tongue.
It's all right. I was eating.
Yeah, I know.
Something.
Yeah. No comment. 5670560. Oh, that's a hetero thing. I'm sorry, that's a hetero thing.
It was shaped like a biscotti.
Yeah. Really? Here's a mobile in Cape Coral. Hello.
Neil.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Neil, please don't go up here on the West Coast. We need you over here. I can't take it.
The West Coast, the calls I get from over there, man, even their sheep would turn that crap off.
I'm telling you, in 2004, I'm writing in Neil Rogers for president.
Yeah.
You got to get up there. You need somebody with half a brain in there. God bless you, Neil. Keep it up. I love your show. You're the best. If Bush wins, me and my wife, we're going back to Europe. We're not staying here anymore.
Okay.
Best of luck to you.
Arrivederci.
Bye-bye.
Dewey. Let's see. Here's something else. The faxes are just pouring in here. Why would any woman vote for George W. Bush? By Jean Clark, Executive Director of Women Leaders Online. Any woman who thinks she might give George W. the benefit of the doubt and vote for his so-called compassionate conservatism should consider how much compassion he showed Mary Lou Beats. Most people have never heard of Beats. She was a hearing-impaired, learning-disabled, brain-damaged great-grandmother who spent her childhood being sexually abused by her father. She lived in poverty and violence, moving from one abusive home, one abusive man to another. After years of physical and sexual abuse and no help from law enforcement, she killed her husband. Beats was convicted in a trial that was handled so badly by an attorney who sold media rights to her story for his fee that a federal district court judge ordered a new trial. The state of Texas, however, convinced the appeals court to reinstate both the conviction and the death sentence. Which brings us to Governor Bush. Texas law permits clemency on the basis of certain circumstances, among them a history of the defendant being battered by the victim. But clemency is not in Bush's vocabulary, so he ordered the state of Texas to finish the job that Betty Lou Beats' father started years before. If that doesn't give you pause, maybe you should consider his promise to do for the U.S. what he's done for Texas. Dead last in state government spending per capita, 49th in state appropriations for the arts, 46th in maximum monthly welfare payments for needy families regardless of size, 45th in percent of population graduating from high school, 9th in percent of children living in poverty, 5th in toxic chemicals released into the air, and 2nd in prisoner incarceration rate. Thanks to Bush's compassion, Texas gives many underdeveloped nations a run for their money. Texas has among the highest rates of AIDS, tuberculosis, and teenage pregnancy in the nation, and is scraping the bottom on immunizations. A huge percentage of Texas families have no health insurance, and the state has failed to reach out to thousands of children who could be enrolled in Medicaid. Women in Texas are also slipping behind economically. Texas women make 75.2% of what Lone Star men make. Only 17.5% of women have 4 or more years of college. Nearly 1 in 4 Texas women lives in poverty, and the state ranks 50th in economic autonomy for women. But this election isn't just about numbers, it's about issues and attitudes. On issues, George Bush opposes most pro-women policies, from child care to pay equity to abortion rights, and he would implement policies and appoint judges and cabinet officers who would work to move women back to the bad old days of no choices, no chances. Perhaps most pernicious, though, is Bush's attitude toward women. As a self-confessed party boy and libertine, Bush saw women in 2 roles: Madonna, Laura and Barbara Bush, for example, or whore, feminist, for example. And although he claims to have had an epiphany at the age of 40 when he stopped drinking, found God, and reformed himself, there is clear evidence that he continues in this worldview. At the 1988 Republican Convention, 2 years after Bush's supposed conversion, W was talking to David Fink of the Hartford Courant. "When you're not talking politics," Fink asked the vice president's son, "what do you and your father talk about?" "Pussy," replied the man who now wants women to trust him with their lives and futures and make him the next president of the United States. Finally, there are 2 words that should guarantee that no woman other than a masochist would vote for George W. Bush: Clarence Thomas. That's who W named as his most admired Supreme Court justice. And if Shrub makes it to the White House, he could wind up appointing 4 more. Pussy. Must have been talking about Joe Rose. 5670560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. Yeah, you missed a little bit of excitement we had there last week when we found out that Joe was really like a closet little girl, Joe Rose. But he's so big. A closet little girl. Trust me. Ask Pat. Here's Miami. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Neil?
Okay.
Hey, do people even realize, could you imagine anybody else trying to get a job with an 8-year gap in your resume?
No, not really.
8 years. There's 8 years in which, look at George Bush, nobody knows where he was at, what he did for money.
Yeah.
You know he bankrupted his father's company, but there's 8 years of his life just totally gone. And that's what we're going to elect for our president?
Good thing they handed over him to that Texas Ranger baseball club, wasn't it?
That is insane. And let me ask you one more thing, Neil. Do you think Gore would have done any better with a female running mate that was qualified?
No. He would have done better with like a moderate Goyish candidate, not some Orthodox Jew extremist.
No. Well, I mean, all right. Take it easy, Neil.
Okay, see ya. And I'll say it again, if they were hell-bent on picking a Jew, how about Carl Levin from Michigan? First of all, Carl Levin wouldn't have had to give up the seat in the Senate like Lieberman is going to wind up costing them if they win, if that should happen. And number 2, Carl Levin is a brilliant man who happens to come from a state, Michigan, that's got 18 electoral votes, unlike Connecticut, which the Democrats already win every time anyway. So Lieberman brings nothing to the table. He's an absolute detriment, a liability. And don't give me the song and the dance about how he's going to bring out that gigantic Jewish vote. Every single one of them would have voted for Gore anyway, the ones who are going to vote for him now. Except, of course, for those handful of Jews for fascism. Yeah, we got some of those. We got blacks for racism and Jews for fascism. And women for sexism. And fags for homophobia. See, that's the one great thing about America. We have a lot of people who are masochists. They love it. They love going out there. They can't run fast enough to vote for somebody who'd like to put them in a goddamn oven. Here's North Miami. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Neil?
Yes?
Yes, I got a message for you. I'm going to vote for Gore, but I got a thing here from CNN from July 13, 1999. It says here, Republican President hopeful George Bush and his wife sold their Dallas home in 1995 with a restricted covenant that it would only be sold to white residents. And this is from CNN from July 13, 1999. So the man is a bigot.
There you go. Arthur Godfrey will be proud. Thank you. 5670560, pound 560 on that. Well, you know what he says? He'd like to meet one up close sometime, not too close. Maybe get a what? 5670560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. Maybe that's why 91% of the dark folks out there, and probably more than that, are going to vote for Al Gore. and going to come out in big, gigantic numbers tomorrow and just tilt this whole goddamn waspy establishment of the GOP. That's what they're going to do. This bigoted, hateful, sexist, homophobic, racist goddamn GOP. The Trent Lott and Jesse Helms crowd and Tom DeLay and all these other, and of course don't forget our good Bill McCollum down here, right here in Florida. Don't forget to vote for Bill Nelson 5 or 10 times tomorrow too. Because howdy doody, he ain't fooling anybody. 26th afternoon at 560 WQAM. And wouldn't you think that somebody like a Bill McCollum, who was so rabid, leading the impeachment over Penisgate, wouldn't you have thought that at least somebody like him would have had some moral indignation about Bush and the DWI? Not just the fact that it happened, but the fact that it was covered up, the fact that then he lied to the reporter from the Dallas Morning News about his arrest and so on. None. Zero. Zippity-doo-dah. Does the word hypocrite come to mind?
Uh-huh.
Neil, God.
1, 2, 3. I made it through college and averaged a C. I have a lot of money, but not much of a brain, like most of you voters who were just as lame. But I can say one thing that you can't. My daddy is an ex-president. I got money, power, and nothing to lose. I can do anything I choose. A little bit of cash is all I need to satisfy my ego and my greed. Manipulative marketing's all I use to garner votes for morons just like you. Back in school and made fun of me and laughed. I don't think I laughed that bad. Remember to vote for George Bush, and those of you who don't, you can kiss my tush. You see, what matters to me about the presidency is that it makes a nice conversation piece. I'm the king of denial, too. I have no problem lying to you. So why is it so important for you to know whether or not I did blow a little bit of cocaine up my nose, a little bit of tooth, a little blow? When I'm elected, I'll put an end to all that. When I put up the concentration camp.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. 12:32 at 560 QAM. This just faxed in. It says the truth will come out whether you like it or not, Republicans. Then you'll be confronted with a challenge. The challenge is this. Can you hold your head up and claim the high moral ground of character and integrity, all the while you're championing and voting for a man who has neither? The details are rapidly becoming known. Here's something for all you hypocritical pro-lifers. Desperate measures, George W. Bush and abortion. Apparently, the story of the source of this story was due to go public this week via publisher Larry Flint, but found out that Flint was planning to make a tabloid sale and changed her mind. Like George W. Bush's intervention in commuting the sentence of serial killer Henry Lee Lucas, this is a story that is circulating in the press packs, but that few people want to touch at the 11th hour of the 2000 U.S. presidential election. In the winter of 1971, George W. Bush was dating a woman named Robin Lohman, now Robin Garner. Miss Lohman became pregnant by the virile George W., and he arranged for her to have an abortion, which in the great state of Texas in 1971 was very illegal. Not to mention that George W. is running as a pro-life candidate for the presidency. The unnamed source of this story was a friend of Robin Lohman's and a girlfriend of the man who arranged the abortion. His name is Robert Carl Chandler. Mr. Chandler is a Bush friend and supporter from way back and made the arrangements for Miss Lohman's abortion at the 12 Oaks Hospital in Houston, Texas, now the Bayou City Medical Center. The source of the story overheard the telephone call by Mr. Chandler to arrange the abortion, and she visited Robin Lohman at the 12 Oaks Hospital after the procedure. The source, meanwhile, is afraid of coming forward, saying that she was threatened by Mr. Robert Chandler and by another Bush friend and supporter named Jim Bath. Mr. Jim Bath has long-standing intelligence connections and played a role in the BCCI scandal. Robin Lohman, now Garner, is married to Jerry Lee Garner, who is an FBI agent. So that's the story, an illegal backroom abortion arranged by the Republican Party presidential candidate who's running on a pro-life ticket.
So by their criteria, he's a murderer.
Right. That's right. And I'll say it again, 1971, abortion was illegal all over this country. That's 2 years before Roe v. Wade, which makes it a very serious felony. So we got the felony, the alleged felony of the covering up altering the military records. And we got this. This all makes the DWI look like child's play. So we'd have to agree on that. Pretty minor stuff compared to the rest of the good stuff he was doing during those lost years when he was like sowing his wild oats till he was 40, before he found Jesus. We got 444 votes already. That's staggering. If you're voting tomorrow, for whom are you voting? Al Gore, 306, 69%. No, I didn't make up that number. George W., 95, 21.3%. Ralph Nader, 22, 4.9%. Harry Fudge Browne, 12, 2.7%. And Pat Buchanan is still stuck there on 2% for poor Pat. Okay, here's a call from Weston. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
I'm coming down University, heading into 595, coming from the south, and on Saturday, and I'd already had a few too many bad chicken wings, you know, and I see what looked to be two homeless people because the way they are dressed was just so ridiculous that I thought, oh my God, here they are, they're going to come over and wash my window. But lo and behold, before I could even see it, they were holding those placard signs, you know. And they had of course, a nice professionally printed one that say Bush and Cheney, but the lady who was wearing a faded pink T-shirt, which was stained and way too small for her gut, it said underneath hers, in a handwritten one, honk for Bush. People were diving under the dashboards, disconnecting their horns, you know, but across the street, the guy who was as smarmy as she was, he had, guess what his said? Honk for Dick.
Honk for Dick.
You know, so they have, now I'm wondering, was this a Republican idea of like an attempt at humor, or?
Honk for Dick and honk for Bush. There were a lot of honkies out there over the weekend.
Well, I was going to say, that was the quietest corner I've ever seen in Broward County in my life.
Unreal.
I think what everybody's forgetting, or missing,
they probably were afraid. They figured Ken Jennings was watching them.
All these things that people are talking about with regard to the personally, morally responsible and all that, look, it's okay. It's like if Jeffrey Dahmer went ahead and, you know, became a Republican and then accepted religion and apologized in public.
That's right.
He would be trotted out there.
Oh, absolutely. That's the big thing with the evangelical Christians is the fallen sinner. Once he comes back and repents, boy, he's better than anybody.
He's even better than a fairly morally upstanding, responsible adult who may be a little boring, but at the same token, you know, has generally led a fairly clean and you know, personally responsible life.
And you're forgetting about the most important fact that over the weekend, the great world-famous Getchke Billy Graham endorsed Governor Bush, a good buddy from Texas.
Isn't he dead yet? I'm sorry, but
not yet. He's working on it.
Did Oral Roberts?
He's in the office pool.
Did Oral Roberts ever go to God? I can't remember that.
I think it was Anal Roberts.
Did God ever call him home or what? It's just amazing. But the spin doctors, Republicans, can hammer Bill Clinton for penis cake, like you say, all the time for the personally, morally irresponsible decisions he's made. But apparently, because if he now, I'm just wondering if he's
Teflon. Don't you understand? It's the Teflon man again. I guess they scraped it off Ronnie because he don't need it anymore. It's not going to help him. They scraped the Teflon off old Ronnie, and now they slapped it on W.
Well, I just say we vote 100 times each.
Okay, pal. Lick Bush tomorrow.
See ya.
Okay. 5670560, pound 560 on the 18. That's what all virile men in America ought to be thinking about, is licking Bush tomorrow on Election Day. That's correct. That should be the poster everywhere. Big billboards, big signs, front page of the newspaper. Let's lick Bush. Here's a lady in Dania. Hello.
Hey, Neil, this is Jackie. I just sent you the facts.
Thank you, Jackie. Thanks very much.
Amazing, isn't it?
It's the fact that this one actually has the names in more detail.
This is the first time I've seen this. This is why I was so excited about getting it.
Right.
What can we do about it? I mean, 12 hours before the election, and this man is a murderer.
I don't know. The mainstream media is just terrified, like it says in here. I just don't think that they're going to touch it.
But if they've actually got names and people and dates, what? I mean, what? Can he be impeached before he's even elected?
Just like I suspected, the intimidation factor again. This woman was, she's afraid to come forward because she's been threatened by at least 2 or 3 people, so they made her an offer she couldn't refuse.
But will the results be nullified if he's elected?
And of course not.
It's unbelievable. And look what they did to Bill Clinton. Unbelievable.
Well, that's all the more reason to vote 400 or 500
times.
Vote
100 times tomorrow, Neil.
Okay, sweetheart. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Yeah, this thing, we just pressed the thing. This, press a key. Maybe this thing will reset. Or not.
Oh, I have to go in there and do it.
Oh. Like I said, while we're rebooting the telephone here and worrying about whether they're going to ever get the phone fixed.
When did this start? Just this morning?
What's that? Oh, yeah, this is something new and exciting. The Line 5 thing's been going on for, before we went on vacation, about 2.5. It used to be 6, and we moved it up to 5, and we're just sitting here waiting. waiting for the day when they decide to get their ass in gear and do something. Are they going to do something?
No.
Probably not, because that's the Beasley effing way. And don't buy that Beasley stock, George, because if you do, I'm telling. 21 before 1 at QAM.
This is 560 QAM. The Neil Rogers Show. Sports Radio 560 QAM.
Packwood can't keep his pecker in his pants. For the moments when you're a little emotional.
And I always knew I hated you. I just didn't want to say it.
For the moments when you're feeling a little under the weather.
Under the weather bit.
For those moments when you're just not yourself.
And why did you take out Juicy then? Because you're having an affair, that's why.
For the cramping moments in life. Try new extra strength cramping. Strong Nuggets, Gem-Life, and Levitamins. So shut up already and make your cramping moment a quiet one. Because the rest of us could care less if you have your period.
16 before 1 at 560 WQM. I'm trying to think who the people are that are voting Bush. You got your rednecks. You got your right-wingers. Anything with an R. Right-wingers.
Right-wing refugees.
Yeah, right-wing refugees. Racists.
Rednecks.
I just said that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And rich people, that's also with an R. Rich assholes. Selfish rich assholes. Like my good friend Ron at the hockey game, who still keeps coming around.
Ron
won't leave me alone. Yes?
Starts with an R.
Yeah. Jews for fascism. Here's Boca. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Neil, 2 points regarding George Bush. One is, the man is an incredible hypocrite as well as a sleazebag, and the perfect point of that was his race against John McCain in New York.
Mm-hmm.
But keep in mind that the New York race was a pivotal race. Whoever won that race for the Republican candidacy would have really catapulted them towards the next primary. And yet he used that breast cancer ad in the New York primaries to smear McCain, which was a total misrepresentation.
Right. Mm-hmm.
As you know, McCain has a relative who has breast cancer.
Right.
It was thoroughly discredited after the race. George Bush never disassociated himself from it or condemned that, and that really helped him, catapult into the
Well, yesterday on one of the talking head shows, they had Bob Kerrey and John McCain were on together, and McCain was sitting there, with a bandage on the side of the head with his, going through the cancer therapy again. And Bob Kerrey pointed out that the campaign that W ran against him in South Carolina was the dirtiest, the filthiest, the most scurrilous campaign that's ever been run in the history of this country. And McCain just kind of sat there and really didn't have much comment. What could he say? Really embarrassing.
Neil, one other thing, and this is an appeal to the Nader voters today. I admire your principle, but you're going to win the battle and you're going to lose the war. And what I'm saying to the Nader people that are listening to your show now is, get real. If you vote for Nader, you're going to wake up the next morning with an intellectual lightweight who is going to be your worst nightmare. At least Gore is closest to your position. So be pragmatic, people out there. I admire your principles, but please, when you get to the voting booth, do not elect this nightmare because you will rue the day for the next 4 years.
That's right.
Thank you, Neil.
Thanks. And we'll be here to tell you every day you did it. You did it every single day. We'll put it on tape. You did it. They like to talk about the politics of division. This is what really cracks me up, talk about hypocrites and all the bickering going on. I guess the morons out there must have forgotten about the last 8 years that started the day that Clinton got inaugurated. Actually, it started before that, when he first started running in the primaries. But from the day that he was inaugurated in 93, right on through 8 solid years, it's never stopped. The politics of division. Every time this man farted and it was the wrong flavor, we had to have another investigation. They had to spend another $5 million a year taxpayer money. It's just astonishing how stupid the public can be about attack ads and about dirty politics. And then when the thing came out about the DWI, right away, that's typical Democratic dirty tricks. Well, the term politically dirty tricks came out during the Nixon years. It had nothing to do with Democrats. It had to do with Watergate. And we've had 8 years of nonstop dirty tricks. And then all of a sudden they also had Bob Livingston on one of the talking head shows. It was on the CNBC over the weekend with of all people, softball Chris Matthews. And even Chris Matthews couldn't stand it when Livingston started whining about the fact that, they were out to get him and they got him, they nailed him. Yeah, well, they nailed you because you were screwing around on your wife, sweetheart, because you were a hypocrite. And then Livingston started reading all this paranoid right-wing crap, and Chris Matthews says to him, what are you reading that from? And he says, the Drudge Report. And Chris Matthews says, not anymore, you're not. And he made him stop reading it right there, cut him off in mid-sentence. The Drudge Report. Yeah. Partisan is only when it's by the Democrats, when they point out the truth. Just like the business about wanting to protect his daughters. When Bill Clinton said he didn't want to talk about his affair with Monica because he wanted to protect his family, then it was just a cover-up, which of course it was, but then they were all screaming it's just a cover-up. But when GW says he didn't want to come forward and be honest about his DWI to protect his young daughters, then we're supposed to believe that. Just amazing. That's why I call it another Teflon candidate with separate set of standards that the right-wingers have got. You can do whatever you want if you're a Republican. If you're a Democrat, all you got to do, like I said, is fart the wrong flavor and gotcha. But we need an end to the politics of division and all the bickering in Washington. Right. See, they're counting on the fact that most people are dodo birds, and they're right. They're absolutely right. Here's Davey. Hello.
Hey, Neil.
Yes, sir.
I think we need more division. I quite agree. We need to confront, there's nothing like having choices that are actually choices, to choose from. I think one thing that we don't need is both parties getting closer and closer together. This is the problem.
Yeah.
I noticed on your website, it's your birthday. Was your birthday yesterday?
Yes, sir.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
That was a great picture of Alfred E. Newman that you got
Isn't
off
that the
Nation
best?
magazine.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
It's almost as good as the stuff that's on the inside when you click it on.
Yeah, that's true. But that picture just kind of sums it all up.
Yeah.
But listen, there's a way that the people that want that Nader lovers can have their cake and eat it too, and still lick Bush. Can we tell you how?
You're not going to tell me this sad, sorry thing about swapping votes, are you?
What's the matter with that?
It's pointless. What's the point?
Because you can vote for Nader, and you can still vote.
Now, sir, let me say it again. If they vote for Nader, we're going to wind up with the same thing 4 years from now.
No, I'm saying you can vote for. I already did. I already called my buddy in New York. He's voting for Nader in New York. He was going to vote for Gore, and I'm going to vote for Gore for him down here.
Well, God
because
bless
in New
him.
York, New York's not a swing state. Gore's going to win there easily.
Yeah.
So he did me the favor of voting for Nader, in order for me to do him the favor of voting for Gore here in a swing state. Doesn't that make sense?
No, not really.
Could you knock a hole in it for me?
The whole is this. The fact is that you're spinning your wheels. You want to get to $12 million so that the 5% can become 8 or 9%, which I don't think it's ever going to get to that point.
Right. So
and then it's just going to be that much more of a detriment. You're going to, every 4 years, you're going to be a detriment to any Democratic candidate.
So now I understand. So now what you're saying is that an alternative leftist party is never a good idea. It's not just now it's not a good idea.
It's not just
never a good idea.
It's not just a leftist party. It's an extreme leftist party.
No, it's not. Come on, Neil.
Oh, get out of here. Well, you're talking crap. Abolish the U.S. Senate and abolish the military. You don't even know what the platform of the Green Party is, sir, and I'll say it again. Ralph Nader doesn't support the platform of his party. It's an ego trip. Oh, come on. All these pseudo-intellectual young geniuses, man, these self-absorbed. Oh, yeah, we have to have a difference. Well, that's not the way to do it. The day after tomorrow, if you want to have some differences, then start a grassroots organization and put together a moderate party. Not an extreme left-wing wacko party. And these are the same Green Party people, by the way, that nearly destroyed the city of Seattle last year, but we're supposed to forget about that. Bunch of lunatics. I wonder what Nader's got to say about, that's right, he forgot about it? 567-0560, and I'll say it again, you look at the skyline in Houston, the fact that the pollution in Texas is so bad that they can't even let the kids out to practice football some days because the air is so polluted. Thanks to G.W. Bush and the relaxation. And, of course, here's the guy who wants it to be voluntary compliance with those goddamn EPA guidelines. He wants it to be voluntary. So here's the greatest enemy of the environment that you could possibly have running, and the Nader people are supposed to be the greatest environmentalists, far beyond Al Gore, the tree hugger, far beyond him. What they're going to do is help a lunatic, an irresponsible man, get elected tomorrow. I'll say it again. Even little quippy Ross Perot got 19% of the vote in 92. In fact, a poll that they took a couple of days ago, 53% of the American people would like to have an alternative party. They don't like the Democrats or Republicans or their candidates. And I would be one of them, too. I agree. But Ralph Nader and the Green Party ain't the answer. Believe me. Here's Miami. Hello.
Hey, Neil. How you
Yes,
doing?
sir. Okay.
Listen, I got a couple points to make about this whole thing.
Yes, sir.
And you got everybody talking about the abortion issue with Bush and all the pro-lifers jumping out on the bandwagon thing. he's going to stop abortion and everything like that. He's not pro-life. Look at all the capital cases in Texas. Look at how many people he put to death. Look at all that. He's anything.
But you're missing the point here, and that is pro-life means you love the fetus, not people who are alive. The fetus. He's a fetus hugger.
And they don't understand that, you know. And I'm a Catholic, and I don't believe in abortion, but I don't believe that the government should tell people whether or not they should have one or not.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And another point I'd like to make it real quick is...
In addition to which, does anybody see the hypocrisy of a man who's running based on the fetus-hugging principle, who allegedly, I believe this story, and I've believed it all along, because now we even have names and specific people involved and dates, who paid to have somebody he knocked up get an abortion?
I know, that's ridiculous. And another thing I'd like to say real quick about all these Bush supporters and everything like that. The other day I was driving around Miami, and they have one of these little corner rallies, you know, holding up their signs and everything like that. I've got a Gore sticker in my car. I held it out the window to the guy who's showing his sign. I smiled at him, you know. He started smiling, and I was smiling back at him. He gave me the finger because I held up a Gore Lieberman sign. That's ridiculous, you know. It's like, I want to vote for who I want to vote. If I don't vote for Bush, then I'm an asshole. That's the way he treated me.
Consider the source.
You know, yeah, all right. And
Just like the people calling us off here today, consider the source. Have a great day, pal. See, and it fits right in. At least the people, for the most part, I'm not going to say everybody who votes for Bush is like him, but there's a lot of similarity there. He attracts the dumb, he attracts the bigoted, the narrow-minded, the selfish, the people who got theirs, they don't give a crap about anybody else. That's what it's all about. But it's the dumb part in the middle. Those are the millions of the dumb masses out there. Those are the ones that are going to influence what's going to happen tomorrow, and that's what's really scary. That's the most scary part of it all. Just like the old guy that calls me in the first hour today says, that tells me about these people calling about Chappaquiddick, and what they forget is that Ted Kennedy couldn't run for president because of Chappaquiddick. And I said, what about in 1980 when he ran against Jimmy Carter in the Democratic primaries, and he went, oh, I didn't know about that. He didn't know about that. How is that possible? Did he sleep through it? Was he taking too much Milltown? Was he squeezing the bag too much in those days? Uh-huh. You can't complain about... See, this is why half of the people don't vote, or more. Because most of them don't know anything about what's going on anyway. I guarantee you, this audience in this radio station, you got a hell of a lot better chance finding out who's going to be number one in the goddamn college football poll than finding out who the candidates are. Give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball, baby, because that's what it'll be all about. Now let's get those football players out there and vote several times tomorrow, because most of them are starters anyway.
This is 560 QAM.
It's not just the 1 to 2 hour. It's a phenomenon.
Come on, America. It's time to grow up and step outside the closet.
Tell a friend about your secret and bring out the gayness. Bring out the gayness. Bring out the gayness. Tell a friend about your secret and bring out the gayness. From all the anus you can get.
Christians, preachers, and all the religious right, you're not fooling anyone anymore. It's in the papers every day, so why not catch up with the rest of the world and tell your disciples the truth to set yourself free? Next time you want to reach out for goodness, reach for a handful of ass.
Tell a friend about your secret and bring out the gayness. Bring out the gayness. Bring out the gayness. Tell a friend about your secret and bring out the gayness. Tell your disciples that you're gay.
All right, 1 o'clock right on the nose here at 560 WQM, our big 1 to 2 hour. We got Hank from Shula's Take 2 coming up at 2 today. We got Kimba Bokamper 6 to 8:45 also from Shula's before Monday Night Football. Vikings at the Packers at 8:45, Eddie K after Monday Night Football. The Guardian Observer, another British paper, has in their Monday, November 6th, today's edition, this story. A slavish press connives to hide GW's shady side. It says, to the Guinness Book of Records, reserve a whole page under hypocrisy. It's for George W. Bush and the managers of his bid for the White House. They've run a campaign of character assassination, knowing that Al Gore has an intimidating grasp of issues. They've used every trick, every dollar of special interest money, every toady in the press to smear the vice president as a liar. The cleverness of that diversionary tactic was that if it worked, it would relieve GW of giving proper answers to the questions of substance he finds so bewildering. It worked. Now Bush is revealed as a liar on serious issues of character, and what happens? The smear artists are shouting dirty politics. Given the anti-Gore bias of the mainstream press, Last Thursday night's revelation that Bush was arrested for drunken driving in 1976 when he was 30 may have come too late to affect his lead. The Republican spin machine has also been adept in damage control. Within 24 hours, it almost managed to turn the story into who leaked instead of why didn't he come clean. It is true the disclosure came from a Maine Democrat, though not from the Gore campaign, but the point is that it is true, and the real question is the character of the candidate who tried to conceal his past. He did confess to mistakes of his youth, but he would never be specific, hoping the mistakes would be thought of as youthful pranks, not serious crime. It is an offense to apply for any federal office without divulging an arrest record. Bush not only went to great lengths to cover up his conviction, he lied about it too. In a 1998 interview, a Dallas Morning News reporter asked Bush point blank if he'd ever been arrested other than for a 1968 fraternity prank, and Bush said flatly, no. The exchange was not reported at the time. It didn't seem newsworthy, and when Bush was called to jury service in a drunk driving trial in Texas, he filled out the jury questionnaire, but left blank the yes or no entry asking if he'd ever been arrested in a civil or criminal case. Then he hastily got himself excused on the basis that he was the governor of the state. And it goes on and on and on. For example, it says, for those of you in sodden Britain who might conclude that global warming, for instance, is a matter of concern, should know that Bush regards it as a leftist scare. Asked what he would do, he responds that we need more study before ratifying the Kyoto Agreement, putting me in mind of a fire chief who arrives at the blaze to say he'll have to study the origins of the fire before trying to put it out. See, the Brits, they got their thumb on it. They see through this crap. Here's a mobile in Hollywood. Hello.
Hey, Neil, how you doing?
All right.
All right. Hey, listen, a couple of things. First one is you talked about the double standard. You couldn't have been more right. And the most perfect example, which the Republicans will never talk about, is Iran-Contra-gate and the almighty Ronald Reagan. If anybody should be in trouble, it was Ronald Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing, hope that people remember Bill McCullum is the one that helped spend $50 million of our money on a sex affair after Bill Clinton. So remember, Bill Nelson is our man here in Florida.
Amen.
And the third thing is you're talking about this abortion issue, which is like I've heard it as rumor before today. It seems like you have some more information. Is there a website that we can all go to get this information?
It'll be on there. It'll be on our website, neilrogers.com. It'll be on there this afternoon.
Okay, great. Thanks, Neil.
Okay,
have a good day.
Thanks. 539 votes in our poll already. Got a lot of people going to vote tomorrow. Al Gore, 372, 69%. George W. Wait a minute, it's changing again. One moment, please. Now that lunch is here. Like I said, Al Gore, 68.6%. George W., 115, 21.1%. Nader, 25, 4.6%. Harry Browne, 21, 3.8%. And Pat Buchanan is still stuck there down there at the ass end. Still stuck there at 1.6%. Which is getting right down there to the 1% that he's had in just about every poll, state by state, nationwide, since the very beginning. So at least we can feel a little bit better that only 1% of America are card-carrying, full-fledged Nazis with bad haircuts. Here's a lady in the Gables. Hello.
Hi, Neil.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember the movie Manchurian Candidate?
Sure, with Frank Sinatra.
Right. And I remember seeing that movie the last time I saw it, and the horror, and you're stunned because the evil that pervaded the machinery that was going to put this man in office.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that queasy feeling with this George W. Bush, that same gut feeling of stunned horror. And I feel a parallel is there, like the same character out of Manchurian Candidate.
Yeah.
And I just want to say...
only this character is a lot dumber.
And he's real. He's reality. It's not a movie.
Yeah.
It's like a bad dream come true.
Right.
And I want to say, too, I registered too late to vote. And please, whoever out there who isn't going to vote and he's a Democrat for Gore, please vote for me because I can't do it, please.
Okay, I'll vote twice. Thanks. 5670560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless lines. Don't forget, we'll be with a QM van at the Ticket Sports Bar and Grill with Bifo in Deerfield Beach tonight, corner of Hillsborough Boulevard and Powerline Road in the Kmart Plaza for Monday Night Football. And the nephew will be there, Andrew Miguel, with the best of Neil CDs, keychains, new Neil buttons, and all the other good stuff. The T-shirts. That's Ticket Sports Bar and Grill in Deerfield Beach, corner of Hillsborough and Powerline Road in the Kmart Plaza tonight. And also, don't forget, speaking of tonight, that rally on the South Beach, 10 p.m. on Ocean Drive between 6th and 7th Streets. Al Gore will be there, Stevie Wonder. And who is the other one? Now that you got a mouthful of... Somebody. It's not going to be Patti Smith, I'll tell you that. Who is it?
Deborah Cox.
Oh, Deborah Cox. And you can get free tickets to tonight's big event that'll go on all night at Democratic headquarters. Just call information if you don't have the number for the one nearest by you. What was it?
Federal call.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought you said. Good thing you didn't say Brian. Here's a lady in Deerfield Beach. Hello.
Oh, hi, Neil.
Yes, ma'am.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
I want to say I'm a lesbian, and I've been out for 30 years. And for 30, and I've voted in every election since I'm 18.
Mm-hmm.
30 years, I still don't have all my rights.
Yeah.
And the horror of thinking of Bush coming in, knowing that things will just go from bad to worse.
Right. Every minority group in this country, and women who aren't even a minority, but every group that's had to work like crazy to try to make any advancements in the last 50, 60, 70 years will take giant steps backward if this clown gets in.
That's it, exactly. I talked with some friends in Gainesville, big gay community.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, we want to, put a protest, though. And I said,
remember... Wait a minute, for Nader you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
Jesus.
I said, girls, are you crazy? Even if you just remember all the women that died on kitchen tables getting abortions.
Yeah.
I said, is that what we want to go back to? Hey, I'm not going to need an abortion, but I know other women are gonna, and that's how they'll die. And this is the reality of all this. And it's all about the Supreme Court. Neil, you're the best.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Hang in there. 5670560. Lesbians for Nader. Oh, boy. All I can say is...
Oh, my God.
Wow. Yeah, he's an alternative. Uh-huh. Is he going to win any state?
No.
Any county?
No.
Any electoral vote?
No.
Anything?
No.
No. You've got 24 hours. Well, actually, probably about 26 if you're going to vote late tomorrow. So about 27 hours. To change your mind. To get off that crap. To get with it and be part of the solution and not the problem. And, of course, like the caller said earlier in the show, the Bush people are loving it. They're sucking it up big time, including running those spots showing Nader making anti-Gore comments. Using Nader's words to get people out there to vote for Bush, or to vote against Gore, whether they vote for Nader or Bush. They're loving it. 9 minutes after 1 at 560, WQN.
It puts the lotion in the basket.
Late in the evening, she's had 15 beers. She's cleared all her makeup and aged 15 more years. And then she asks me, do you have a life? And I say, Missy, you look horrible tonight. Oh. I'm smelling something, a thick cheesy substance, like the potato salad that's inside of her muffin. Then she asks me, can we make love tonight? I say no chance. You smell like a monkey's ass tonight.
.114 at 5:52 a.m. Thanks to Brad, our friends over at Tony's Pizza, for a great lunch. Here's a tremendous fax from Mark in Boca. It says, I'm a registered Republican. I have a very large portfolio of predominantly drug stocks. They're all rallying on the anticipation of George W.'s election. In the short run, I'm looking at a windfall in profits. However, tomorrow I'm voting for Al Gore because long-term, no amount of money will be able to repair the damage that this moron and his cronies will bring about in the next 4 years. Al Gore for president, Pat Burns for coach of the Panthers. Nice going, Mark. Right on it, sweetheart. 5670560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. Lady Mobile in Boca, hello.
Hello, Boca.
Welcome.
I appreciate you taking my call, Neil. I'd like the Nader people to consider that if Bush gets in and resigns, they'll have Cheney, and Cheney voted against clean air and clean water. Can the Nader people live with that?
Mm-hmm.
We'll be back 50 years.
Yeah.
And I'd like the Native people to please reconsider who they're voting against.
Well, if they could force the Native people, if they could sit them all down and tie them up for like 5 minutes and let them look at pictures of the Texas skyline, especially in Austin and Houston, but all over the state, and see the damage that the big polluters, the big oil companies and all of George Bush's corporate friends have done in the last 5 years, then maybe they might rethink it. But I don't know. I mean, there's that core of Native people who are just so stubborn and just so obstinate about this, that they must be the same ones that tore apart Seattle.
It's a sad situation.
Well, we'll overcome anyway. 567-0560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. We'll overcome anyway, won't we? Maybe. Or maybe not. Here's a mobile in Boca. Hello.
Hello, how you doing, Neil?
I'm doing good.
Listen, there's a word that we should use for these right-wing fanatics who are for Bush no matter what,
Yeah.
no matter his aptitude, and that is Bushaholic. They're a bunch of Bushaholics because they refuse to see just what a jerk
They can't
is.
get enough Bush, yeah.
They're intoxicated with him. And that's all I have to say.
Okay,
so,
thanks.
Down with Bushaholism.
Maybe in the next few hours we can find a cure for that.
Yes, I hope so.
Okay.
Have a good one.
We're working on it. 567-0560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. Thomas Friedman writes in the New York Times today, the wrong answer. If there's been a low point for the press following the Bush-Gore campaign, surely it's been the mass rush to judgment that because George W. Bush was able to tick off world hotspots in the last debate, he understands foreign policy enough to be president. In fact, Mr. Bush uttered a stunning howler during that debate. When asked by Jim Lehrer which of the recent U.S. interventions abroad he would approve of, Mr. Bush said he did not approve of Haiti, but did approve of Lebanon in 1982. Oh, really? Too bad Mr. Lehrer didn't have time to ask him, Governor Bush, what was it you liked about Lebanon? Was it the fact that President Reagan rushed into Lebanon out of guilt over the Sabra and Shatila massacres without any preparation, and as a result, we became another faction in the Lebanese Civil War? Was it the fact that we were engaged there in intensive nation building, training the whole Lebanese army, the very nation building you opposed in Haiti? Was it the fact that we tried to build our policy in Lebanon around exercising all that military power you want to build up again, even shelling Syrian troops with the battleship New Jersey, and all that power proved futile? Was it the fact that 241 U.S. servicemen were killed in their sleep as a result of the futile exercise of power? Was it the fact that your chief foreign policy advisor, George Shultz, was our Secretary of State then, who negotiated a May 17, 1983 agreement for Israeli security in South Lebanon, which was so one-sided in Israel's favor it was never implemented, blew up in our faces, and resulted in Syrian domination of Lebanon? What exactly did you like about Lebanon, Governor? The failed U.S. intervention in Lebanon was the direct outcome of having a president, Mr. Reagan, who was fuzzy on the details, susceptible to cliches, and totally dependent on foreign policy advisors who themselves did not understand the Middle East. President Clinton was enlisted by all the parties to this conflict to go to Sharm el-Sheikh yesterday precisely because they believe he is someone who has mastered the details and understands the limits of force for resolving this issue. Critics now proclaim Camp David is a mistake. Nonsense. Ehud Barak is no naive dove. He's a realist who felt he owed it to the Israelis, who don't want to live forever on the barricade, to test whether Israel had a Palestinian partner for a decent peace. Mr. Clinton provided the framework for that test. The president was actually quite wary about it. He knew his customers, but he also knew America would suffer if it ran away from this problem in a region where we have so many strategic interests. The trouble was that Mr. Clinton got so much from Mr. Barak that Yasser Arafat wasn't ready to respond. First, Mr. Arafat turned to the Arab regimes for help and cover, but they ran away. Then he went on a world tour to try to get help and was told to deal with Mr. Barak. And when he couldn't summon the will for that, he blew things up. It never occurred to Mr. Arafat that if he wanted more from Mr. Barak, he should, Sadat-like, appeal directly to the Israeli people. The Oslo peace process is now crashed. The parties have chosen to go back to fighting over who owns which olive tree. Eventually, though, like the Serbs, the desire to be part of the world will beckon them back. But only after they all pay an awful price. When it does, maybe we'll have a more honest peace process, one in which Israel is not negotiating with one hand and still building settlements with the other, one in which Mr. Arafat is not negotiating with one hand and building hit against Israelis and Palestinian mosques and textbooks with the other, and one in which weak autocratic Arab leaders don't try to keep their people at bay by letting them steam off on Israel. The devil in this region and the solution is in the details. Foreign policy problems rarely come packaged in your ideal way. They always come messy, spurred as much by the fecklessness of allies as the mendacity of enemies. And they can be solved only by some combination of military might, detailed, patient diplomacy, and yes, some cautious optimism. when you approach them with superficial cliches, an unwillingness to master details, and an over-reliance on military power, you end up with America in Lebanon in 1982, one of George W. Bush's preferred foreign policy moments. Scary. Scary. And he is scary. And anybody with a brain out there ought to be scared that a man who is proud enough to tell us that he was a crap student, proud enough to tell us that if we showed him where Kosovo is on the map, he'd know where it was. And this is your idea of a leader. Shame on you. That's what I have to say here today. Shame on you. Whether you're doing it either because of selfishness, because you think you're going to get a tax cut, you're going to get more goddamn money, or whether you're doing it because you're a professional political hack that all you know is whatever's on the right of the ticket, that's what you're going to vote for. Don't call this kid a big Al Gore supporter like I've told you a zillion times. At one point in the game, not too many weeks ago, I wasn't going to vote at all. I said I'd hold my nose and vote for Gore, and especially that Jew Lieberman creep. My vote is anti-Bush, baby. Anti-Bush and everything he stands for, and all those people, all those rabid right-wing zealots who are behind him, who are pulling the strings. Here's South Miami. Hello.
Hi, Neil.
Yes, sir.
Neil, you were right before when you said the letter R plays a big role in George W. Bush. I'll just read something real quick. Retard, right-wing, Republican, rich kid redneck who reads at a kindergarten level and who reeks of alcohol and who relishes revenge on daddy's loss and whose resume consists of running 3 oil companies into the ground and being handed Rangers ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and his wife? Rough.
Okay, well done. Too bad Sammy Sosa don't have no R's in it. 5670560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. Here's a mobile in West Palm Beach. Hello.
How you doing, Neil? This is Ray.
Yes, sir.
I got a problem with it. Anybody that's of color and they vote for a Republican, and he's going to do away with affirmative action, you need to be shot. I refuse to pay taxpayer money for these daggone public schools to teach these rednecks how to hate other colors and races, nationalities. And they don't understand. It's hate war, racial war. It is prophesied in the Bible. And I wonder if Billy Graham understands that. Somebody stand up there and tell about the Bible and talk about, oh, I'm backing Bush. How you going to back Bush if somebody's against affirmative action? That's like asking Nazis to sit there and say, oh, we love Jews now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How you going to sit there and preach a whole sermon in Hotel Stadium? Taxpayers' money kept coming in. Jacksonville's going to ask about this new taxpayers bill for better Jacksonville. And get this now, this little brother did away with the air testing, did away with a lot of jobs, disaster funds, all this. It's like it runs in the family.
Okay. What do you say? 56705, I'm digesting my lunch. 5670560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. As we're coming almost to the end here today, baby. And tomorrow it's Election Day, and during the show, we're not going to talk about during the show tomorrow, are we?
Uh-huh.
You bet we are. We're gonna have Greg Reed personally driving people. All you folks that don't have a ride, and let me give those. I'll give them tomorrow. You'll forget about them. All those people need a ride to the polls. We're gonna have Greg driving everybody around personal, taking you wherever you can, as long as you promise to vote for Gore. You know Greg Reed? You know who that is?
Yeah.
Here's a letter that was sent from Dick Herman, a Washington lawyer and publisher. He says, Dear friends, I haven't said much during the presidential campaign season, but time is getting short. I think I might regret not expressing myself on the matter of George W. Bush possibly being elected president. I went to school with George. In fact, I knew him quite well, both through athletics, socializing, joint classes, and particularly as my immediate lab partner in a freshman science class. The fact that he is tantalizingly close to becoming the most powerful and important person in the world is both astonishing and terrifying. I had quite a number of classmates whom I thought might one day be worthy of and competent to serve as president, but George was definitely not one of them. I did not come away from my 4 years of interaction with him with a very positive feeling about him. He was intellectually lazy, not particularly interested in anything serious, rather arrogant, contemptuous of studying, and purposeless. To think that someone so average could be leading this nation is a scary proposition. Sure, people change, but not that much. He would have to do a great deal more morphing in order to be up to the job to which he aspires. One of our fellow classmates advances the theory that George is so limited and narrow that he'd have to surround himself with great advisors, hence there is nothing to fear. I disagree. Ultimately, presidents have to make big decisions, and I worry about that. The prospect that our children might have to survive in a world heavily influenced by George should give anyone pause. One other point, one that has been made by others, but that I was witness to up close and personal. George has never been tested. He has lived a life of rare privilege, secure in his name, with the largesse of the powerful and influential people who circle his family. No one has ever had a safety net like George, whether it meant getting into Andover, Yale, Harvard Business School, the Air National Guard, and take it from me and other 50+% of my class that wound up on active duty after graduation, there were absolutely no Guard or reserve slots available anywhere. The oil business, extricating himself from his oil company, the Texas Rangers, the gubernatorial mansion, and the presidential nomination, a few more have taken advantage of it. Like Ann Richards once said, he was born on third base and thought he hit a triple. Please don't help him steal home. Says Dick Herman, a Washington lawyer and publisher who went to school with W, who says basically he's a moron and dangerous. Pretty obvious. All you got to do is watch and listen. 26 after 1 at 560 WQAM.
The Neil Rogers Show. Sports Radio 560 QAM.
Beware of exploding balls.
I went to an orgy at the county jail, looking for a bubble that I could nail. Everyone jumping in, doing their thing. We're all begging and they say we do that thing. Well, let's f***. Everybody, let's f***. Naked bodies all over the cell block. We're banging at the jailhouse. Officer 47 was banging inmate 3. They were the cutest couple that I ever seen. This one inmate was eyeing me with a twitch. He said, come over here so I can make you my bitch. So let's f***. Everybody, let's f***. Naked bodies in the cell block. We're banging at the jailhouse. This one officer was standing all alone. And the bulge in his pocket was hard as stone. The warden said, buddy, what you doing over there? Bang yourself an inmate, quit whacking in that chair. Let's f***. Everybody, let's f***. Naked bodies in the cell block. We're banging at the jailhouse.
And what would Steve Allen think of that? I'll ask you again. You think he'd like it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. 131 at 560 WQAM.
I think until you break it down this way, we don't really understand. We keep talking about the closest race in all these years. It really is that close.
Absolutely.
And these guys have been hammering away to stay in the states. But let's talk about it.
Oh, I love this one. I'm at MSNBC. They give the Republican a bunch of these, the red states, and the Democrat gets the blue states, and they go up to the map and they stick it. They try to, draw out their strategy for winning the Electoral College. They had a bunch of jackasses. I think it was on that one of the roundtables on CNN last night. And all of them, every one of them, oh yeah, well we really believe in the Electoral College and we're all in favor of keeping it. And of course the obvious question is,
why?
Even Thomas Jefferson hated the Electoral College, said it was like a cancer, insanity. Here's a mobile in Tamarack. Hello.
Hi, Neil. Good afternoon. This is Moshe Levine. How you doing?
Okay.
I call you every year, and I'm only calling you now to wish you a happy and a healthy birthday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll call you next year.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Sei gesund.
Thank you.
Okay. Take off that beanie. 56705 and say hi to Jew Lieberman. 5670560, pound 560. Oh, your friend. I forgot to tell you this. Your good friend and accountant David came to a hockey game while you were on vacation one night. Yes. And brought me a bag. And I want to say this about David. Coxahoys. He brought me a bag of sugar-free, like, wafers, Mm-hmm.
Communion wafers?
Yeah. No, seriously. Sugar-free, allegedly. And it was like a plastic container. I mean, not a tremendous
not
amount.
those cream-filled wafer things that they have.
The thin, I can't think of the name that they have for those wafers. They're like flaky.
Right. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, sugar-free.
Okay, so during the course of the game, I mean, there's not much else going on because the Panthers, as usual, are losing again, and so I ate the whole thing.
Oh, God.
Figuring they're sugar-free. And I thought to myself, I didn't have any urge.
But they're not
listen to me.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't have any urge to, so I knew, I'm thinking to myself, that's strange, because I was hoping I had urges. That would give me a good excuse to run home early and get out of that awful game. I get home, my blood sugar is 363. Do you have any idea how grotesque that is?
It's bread with sugar-free cream in the middle of it. What did I try to tell you about those Israelis? They're killers.
It's your accountant, for Christ's sakes. Castle hoisted and stay away from me. I can now think of 2 Jews at those hockey games. You should both stay away from me. I can't get rid of the other one. Can't get rid of him. Oh, and there's Greg, who just came in with his limo. He's taking all the people out to vote tomorrow as long as they vote for Gore. He's going to drive them around in a QM van and his limousine. We're going to keep John Giros locked in the building because we understand he's a bushlicker. We're keeping him locked in here. Piece of crap. Just remember, all these people that drive those big Jaguars, yeah, wannabes. Flashing all their money, you know. Here's a lady in Fort Lauderdale. Hello.
Hello, Neil?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. You're doing great work. I can't believe all of this is being bypassed by the regular media, but it occurred to me, you know, if the London Times report is true, and if it's true that W went AOL and that he was...
Oh, that's not just in that report. It's documented in a million other places.
Oh, yeah, I know. But also that he's behind cleansing proof of that from his military records, both are federal crimes.
Right.
That would make him ineligible to run for federal office
that
under
is correct.
the Constitution.
Uh-huh.
And if he's elected, and it's revealed after the elections, change the president.
Yeah.
So, and then what if, well,
then maybe instead of preventing him from getting in there, maybe he'll be elected tomorrow. We can spend another $60 or $70 million for a big investigation on that.
And we think Penisgate was a big deal.
Right.
But also, do you think that this might be part of a nefarious plot all along with Cheney and the right-wing Republicans up to their old dirty tricks? Cheney learned it in the Nixon White House.
A nefarious plot to do what?
To exactly do this, to bring out the information that W committed federal crimes. And once he's in office, then Cheney becomes president.
No. Have a great day, sweetheart. Say hi to all your friends in the Trilateral Commission. Oh, God. The conspiratorial minds. It just, we got enough problems as it is. Let's not make any up, okay? Let's not start fabricating all sorts of wild theories and conspiracies. God. Yeah, that's the way they're going to do it. And, of course, you must keep in mind, she does have one minor point, or maybe it's a major point to some, and the only reason Cheney was in there is because, as Paul Begala pointed out, Papa picked Dick Cheney. Papa picked Dick. That'd be a good song, wouldn't it? Papa picked Dick. Be good over there in Fort Myers and Naples. They could relate to that. Who was Papa's Secretary of Defense. Yeah, let's get back to those. And now the same core of misfits who got tossed out 8 years ago, they're going to wind up back in there again. They've just been biding their time. They couldn't get Bubba out there with Penisgate, so now they're going to come in the back door, if you pardon that expression.
Rectum.
Yeah. 23 before 2 at 560 WQM.
Neil God.
Gentlemen, closing statements. You begin, Senator Lieberman. Bernie, Al Gore and I are committed to making America's public schools crumbling classrooms. I have tried very hard in my career to act in a way that brings down the institutions of government and each of us individually. And for a while, I was drilling my wife Hadassah, and the deeper I got... That time is up, Senator. Thank you, sir. Mr. Secretary.
George Bush is a good man, an honorable man, a man of high taxes. And Governor Bush and I want to reform the Social Security system so that senior citizens suffer this winter. He'll make a first-rate president.
Secretary Cheney. Senator Lieberman, we thank you.
142 at 560, I would have thought is right, especially on Shabbos. They don't do it on Shabbos, do they?
No.
Oh, God, I hope not. 5670560, we got 18 minutes to go, baby, as the clock is ticking. Here's Miami. Hello.
Hey, Neil.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what is your show going to be like on Wednesday? What are you going to talk about on Wednesday when George Bush is the next president of the United States?
I don't know. Tune in on Wednesday, which I'm sure you will, and we'll find out, asshole. We'll talk about whatever I want to talk about, and you'll be listening too, Spick. One of your little boyfriends out there. Same old tired, Don't you guys ever wear it out? God, they must have a strap on, those kids. They must have a spare. 5670560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless lines. Plenty of open lines. We got 17 minutes to go here. Can you keep it up till 2?
No.
I doubt it. That's why some bum fork like him gets in there. Here's Oakland Park. Hello.
Hi, Neil.
Yes, sir.
I'm a once a year caller also. I call you once a year. I think we're spinning our wheels with this election. It's kind of
spinning
silly.
our wheels?
Oh, it's kind of silly. You know how it works out. Nobody really, it doesn't matter who wins.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk about the Dolphins.
No. Paula Pan can talk about the Dolphins, okay? Not interested. We got 20 hours a day. of that stuff on this station, okay? And the Dolphins, yeah, maybe they'll win the Super Bowl, okay? Great. Hurricanes, maybe they'll be number one. Great. You know something? Who cares? You got the presidential election comes once every 4 years, and some of you people, like I've said so many times, that's all you care about is a ball game. Who's going to win a stupid ball game? Because that's the American effing way, baby. You see, the Europeans, they get out of their system of those soccer matches. They go and riot, and they get all their pent-up hostility and frustration and psychosis out of it, and they carry on like lunatics during the side, and then they go back and they pay attention to business. Here, it's only monkey business, round the clock. That's all the American public knows, monkey business. And let's talk about the Dolphins. No, let's not, okay? Here's Pembroke Pines. Hello.
Hey, Neil, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
The problem, too many lunkheads out there.
Uh-huh.
Listen, I got done with the Bagala's book. What a great read, man.
Yes,
I wish I could just be distributed to every household in America. But I wanted to ask you, did you see in Saturday Sun Sentinel the big full-page spread by the Christian...
yeah, I talked about at the beginning of the show.
I'm sorry.
There was another one in the Herald yesterday and the Saturday one in the Sun Sentinel. Disgusting.
It's just appalling, but actually, to me, it's great, because I would think it would work in reverse. I don't know what they're trying to force down
Well, that should be a real good tip-off on where the Bush people are coming from, what he's all about.
Yeah, because we want our nation to run according to God's stated laws and principles.
Right.
Amazing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep it up, Neil. This is scaring the hell out of me.
Okay.
The fact that this man could possibly get in. People, go out and buy Bagala's book if you're not sure. If you haven't decided yet, you're a bunch of idiots.
Strap yourself in, pal.
Oh, God help you.
Get ready for a bumpy ride. I'll say it again. Gore's got to win Florida, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Absolutely, positively must win all three. See, the Electoral College thing now, it's tough. He's there in St. Louis right now, but he's 4 points down in the tracking poll in Missouri, which has got 11 electoral votes. Looks like that's going to Bush. But Gore's, I'm not counting on West Virginia. I don't think that looks too good. Arkansas don't look too good. Tennessee, it was dead even 46-40. He finally pulled even in his home state, and they kept saying, "Oh, look, take a look at his home state." Well, the fact is, as many people have pointed out, in the last several years, Tennessee has become more and more Republican. Used to have mostly Democratic senators and governors, and now they got a Republican governor and 2 Republican senators, and it get more Republican by the day because of the changing demographics, as in more and more redneck, if that's possible. But Gore's absolutely got to win those 3 of the remaining biggest states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Florida, and certainly Oregon or Washington, one or the other, and Minnesota, absolutely, and Wisconsin, where he's down a couple of points in latest poll. And you know who we can thank for him being down a couple of points in the latest poll in Wisconsin? Ralph frickin' Nader and his goddamn lunkheads. That's who we can thank. All those punks who think that, like I said before, are going to be running around the street smoking the wicked weed out in the street tomorrow. Yeah. Likely story. Young, naive, uninformed, stupid. Now, we always have, an element of the electorate that's like that, especially dumb and especially uninformed and especially stupid, but this time we can't afford it. They're a luxury we can't afford. Here's a mobile in Fort Lauderdale. Hello.
Hey, Neil.
Yes, sir.
Birthday was today or yesterday?
I think yesterday, last time I checked, but I'm trying to lose track at this point.
Well, happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Neil, I was watching MSNBC yesterday a little bit, and I just, they had the map up with the Electoral College, and they had it shaded in blue and yellow and red, and that's all just their speculation on how it's going with the 270 votes that you need. And you're right. I mean, the key here is, Florida, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, those are huge. But when they're showing on the bottom, Gore was winning a bunch of those by 7-8%. One was 49-40. Florida was pretty close, but Pennsylvania...
2 points. 2 points. 47-45 for Gore.
But Michigan he had Illinois.
9 points. Yeah, he's got Illinois. Illinois is not in the running. Illinois is safely in his camp.
Right.
But you got to understand if you believe the MSNBC, which they've been a little bit slow in giving states out, they're sticking with 205 for Bush and 181 for Gore. Right. That means that Gore is already 24 electoral votes behind. You only need 270, which would tell you that Bush needs only 65 and Gore needs 85.
So he's got to win those ones with the 23 and 25 in those big states.
Right.
Now, if this is the way this cracked up system is. If Bush wins electoral and Gore wins the popular, Bush is the freaking president.
That's right. Or the other way around.
So when do they have, educate me here, it's been 16 years since I graduated from high school, when the hell do we have a runoff, and what do they do on that?
What do you mean a runoff?
Well, don't they have, hasn't there been a presidential runoff
No,
ever?
there's no, what do you mean a runoff? How can there be a runoff? There's no such thing as a runoff in a presidential election. If they tied with 269 electoral votes each, then it goes to the House, state by state.
And then the House votes on who's
Right,
president.
the new House, the newly elected House after January.
Right. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well, so I'll be there tomorrow morning voting for Gore.
See you there.
See you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye. It's 11 before 2 at 560 WQA.
The Neil Rogers Show. Sports Radio 560 QAM.
George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit.
Yes.
George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. Georgie Jr. is a piece of shit. He's a rich spoiled brat and a cocaine junkie. What's he gonna do with all that campaign money? He don't give a crap about people going hungry, but don't confuse them with the facts. We can't find your rap sheet, it just disappeared. We're looking all over and it still ain't here. Hey, Georgie Jr., where'd your rap sheet go? Are you afraid that we'll find out that you did blow? You were a rich college kid, a drunken party post, and you got pinched for possession of drugs by a rich bitch like you. You can hire a judge to get some Ajax blender and a big head sponge. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. Georgie Jr. is a piece of shit. One more time. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. Georgie Jr. is a piece of shit.
154 at 560. Amen to that. 694 votes already. If you're voting tomorrow, for whom you be voting? Al Gore, 485, just under 70%. George W, 131, 18.8%. Harry Browne, Fudge Brown's moving into second place, 36 votes, 5.1%. Ralph Nader, 32, 4.6%. And Pat Buchanan. All right, let's hear it for Pat. He's up to 10. Oh! He got another one. Took him about 2.5 hours. He's got 1.4%. And here's Al Gore in St. Louis.
Of Gene Carnahan. You know what it means to keep the fire.
That's right. Let's vote for that dead guy in St. Louis and Missouri. And standing right next to Al Gore, there's Dick Gebhardt. And there's that mindless tipper standing. Oh, boy. She just gives me the creeps. Lynn Cheney gives me the creeps. See, one thing about that, what is her name? Laura Bush? The burning bush? You don't see her. They've kept her locked up somewhere. Maybe it's because of that guy that she killed that time, you know? That pedestrian. We can get her hooked up with Rick Sanchez. Here's a mobile in Sunrise. Hello.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
First of all, let me say, happy birthday to you!
Thanks.
And my pleasure. And second of all, anybody that votes for Bush tomorrow, basically they're...
Okay, great. Play with it some more, pal. Here's Pompano. Hello. Pompano.
Yeah, Neil.
Yes, sir.
Question: how do you take? What's the take on the local and state vote for tomorrow? Are you going to go Democrat or Republican?
Democrat all the way, sir. Right down the list.
That's what I want to know because I agree with everything you say, and I'm going to follow your.
Every Democratic candidate.
You got it.
Including Peter Deutsch, who's unopposed.
Okay.
Just to make sure.
Thanks, Neil.
Okay. Yeah, see, that guy that called, that old fart that called me the other day, I'll be sure and vote for Elaine Bloom. Well, I can't vote for Elaine Bloom unless I move over to the beach. That District 26 is right along the beaches, from Miami Beach all the way through Fort Lauderdale Beach. A lot of goyim in that area, especially in Fort Lauderdale. All those rich goyim that live in Fort Lauderdale Beach, you know. So I think Clay Shaw, I don't know. I hope Elaine Bloom pulls it through. For Clay Shaw, just because they recognize the name, first of all, he's been in there for 20 years. And plus the rich goyim, they like him. Don't forget, just say to Bill McCollum tomorrow, just remember all that $60, $70 million of tax money wasted. Just remember his rabid hysteria, his paranoia with Penisgate. He was the leader, the henchman, leader of the pack. And now that we have all this other stuff coming out about W, he's strangely silent. Oh, it's a political thing, it's dirty tricks. When the shoe is on the other foot, the right wing, they can't deal with it. They can't handle the heat. Even that Bob Livingston starts reading from the goddamn Drudge Report, and Chris Matthews had to shove a sock in his mouth to shut him up. Here's Delray Beach. Hello. Delray Beach.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
I'd like just to make several statements.
Really?
Number one, Ann Richards was defeated, and of course she's been taunted by the Republicans, but they forget to mention that they outspent her 30 to 1. 30 to 1.
Uh-huh.
And I would also add that the Republican kingmaker's reinvention of George Bush will probably be one of the grossest mockery of our time. Incidentally, when George Bush keeps repeating his